Chapter 209. Wang Daoyuan couldn't help laughing. The Thunderflame Daoist's understanding of Wang Daoxing was rather comprehensive. He took out an interspatial pouch and a jade strip and handed it over to Wang Daoyin. I didn't have any good food for you to eat after leaving home, so this jade strip contains some recipes that I've summarized. You can learn how to cook when you're free and rely on yourself. This storage bag is filled with dried meat. It will be used as rations for you and Senior on the way. Cultivate well when you reach the Divine Weapon Pavilion and don't let Senior down. Wang Daoyin received the jade strip and interspatial pouch. Don't worry about it, second brother. I will cultivate well. But I'll be away from home, so I won't be able to take care of my parents. I'll leave it to you and big brother. Wang Daoyuan patted Wang Daoyin's shoulder. Little brother is sensible now. You don't have to worry about me and big brother. The Thunderflame Daoist took out a jade strip and handed it over to Wang Daoyuan. This contains the insights of breaking through to the Violet Palace realm. The Wang clan should have some of the insights left behind by Daoyu. But the more, the better. Wang Daoyuan received the jade strip and cupped his hands. Thank you, Senior. Things like cultivation experience were precious treasures to any force. When they heard that the Thunderflame Daoist was leaving, the Wang clan's foundation establishment cultivators came to send him off. After the Thunderflame Daoist bade farewell to the Wang clan, he flew south with Wang Daoyin. After sending off the Thunderflame Daoist and Wang Daoyin, Wang Daoyuan left a copy of the insights of breaking through to the Violet Palace realm and handed it over to his 12th uncle. With his cultivation speed, it would take at least a few decades for him to use the insights. But his great-grandfather and 5th uncle could use it right now. There was no need for him to manage the clan's affairs, so there was no need for him to stay in the Jade Spring Peak. He also needed to find a place to practice the Earth Divine Lightning that the Thunderflame Daoist left for him. It wasn't suitable for him to practice it in the Jade Spring Peak since it was known for its lethality. It was better to head to the Lingji Mountain as soon as possible since there were all sorts of demonic beasts there that could be used to test the lethality of the Earth Divine Lightning. After informing the Grand Elder, he left the Jade Spring Peak and headed for the Lingji Mountain. After 2 months, Lingji Mountain was still relatively peaceful. The lightning ape was causing trouble everywhere, but none of the surrounding demonic beasts dared to come and seek death. However, without Wang Daoxing and Wang Daoyin, the rank 1 demonic beasts had a much better life. Lingji Mountain was still in its early stages. The high-value spiritual herbs had only been planted for a few years, so it was not time to harvest them yet. With the protection of the Wood Withering Flourishing Formation and the Wall of Vines, no rogue cultivators would come to seek death. The job of controlling the Array Formation had already been handed over to 5th brother Wang Daozong. After Wang Daoyuan returned to Lingji Mountain, he was too lazy to care about controlling the formation. Instead, he went straight to the cave abode of the Red Fire Ape to study the Wuta Divine Thunder. The complete version of the lesser 5 elemental lightning technique had 9 levels each. The corresponding realm was from the early stage of foundation establishment all the way to the late stage of Aurus Core. Wang Daoyuan only had 4 levels of the Earth Divine Lightning remaining, and the 4th level corresponded to the early stage Violet Palace realm. Although it was incomplete, it was enough to last for a long time. The 3 Gui water lightning pearls given to him by his grandfather were only cast by a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Once he mastered the 3rd level of the Earth Divine Lightning, he would be able to create an Earth Lightning Pearl and keep it as a trump card for his family. Creating a primitive spiritual talisman like the Earth Lightning Pearl wasn't difficult for a formation master and talisman master. The Earth Divine Lightning was created by Yuanian cultivators on the basis of their abilities. It was very different from ordinary magic arts. Ordinary magic arts only required one to circulate spiritual energy in a different way and control it with spiritual sense. The Earth Divine Lightning was different from ordinary magic arts. Wang Daoyuan followed the method recorded in the Jade Slip and practiced for 2 days. In the end, he was only able to release an Earth Attribute Spiritual Energy Ball. It was even weaker than the Golden Blade art. How could it be the 5 elemental lightning that was known for its destructive power? It was more appropriate to call it the Earth Ball art. Fortunately, the jade slip also recorded the method to cultivate the Earth Divine Lightning. The Earth Divine Lightning wasn't like ordinary magic arts that could be released by circulating spiritual energy. One had to visualize lightning in the sea of consciousness and comprehend its power. Only after comprehending the power of lightning and using Earth attribute spiritual energy to simulate lightning arts could one release the true Earth Divine Lightning. The power of the 5 elemental lightning was closely related to the user's understanding of lightning. Comprehending lightning was a bit difficult for ordinary people. After all, lightning attribute cultivators were rare. Where would they go to comprehend the power of lightning? Thunder on a rainy day was very different from lightning arts. Wang Daoyuan wasn't an ordinary person. His younger brother was a lightning attribute cultivator. He cultivated the 5 elemental arts and could also use lightning attribute magic arts. It was just that his speed was a bit slower. Over the years, he had seen the power of lightning. Especially now that he had subdued the lightning ape. The lightning attribute magic arts he knew were all rank 1 and weren't of much use. However, the lightning ape's innate magic arts weren't weak. If he wanted to visualize lightning, all he had to do was bring the lightning ape to cause trouble. All the demon beasts within 100 miles were as obedient as his grandson. There was no need to fight them. If those obedient demon beasts were killed, the spirit vein they occupied would be empty and other demon beasts would come over. The newly arrived demon beasts wouldn't know their place and would cause trouble at Linji Mountain, affecting the development of Linji Mountain. He would leave those obedient demon beasts alive and let them become the outer defense of Linji Mountain. Wang Daoyuan brought the lightning ape to a spirit vein more than 200 miles south of Linji Mountain. This was a middle-grade grade 2 spirit vein and the demon beast occupying it was a middle-grade grade 2 cloud-patterned python. The cloud-patterned python was more than 100 feet long and the lightning ape would have to put in some effort to kill it. Coincidentally, Wang Daoyuan could observe it as well. Without needing Wang Daoyuan's instigation, the lightning ape sensed the aura of other demon beasts and charged up the mountain to fight the cloud-patterned python. Wang Daoyuan released his golden wings and guarded the surroundings while he stood about 200 feet away from the battlefield. He observed the lightning ape's magic arts carefully and felt the power of lightning. The lightning ape was indeed a mutated demon beast with a high-grade bloodline. Its use of lightning attribute spiritual energy was extremely brilliant. Not only could it release lightning balls, but it could also use lightning attribute spiritual energy to form lightning whips to whip the cloud-patterned python. The way it whipped the cloud-patterned python was very similar to Wang Daoyuan's 5-dragon soul-chasing whip. It was indeed the most intelligent demon beast below humans. Its ability to imitate was really strong. However, the power of the lightning whips was still a far cry from the innate magic arts. Wang Daoyuan observed the lightning attribute magic arts while visualizing lightning in his sea of consciousness. After an hour, the cloud-patterned python was covered in wounds. The lightning ape accumulated spiritual energy and released a bowl-sized lightning ball towards the python's head. The cloud-patterned python couldn't dodge in time and was hit by the lightning ball. Its entire head exploded and it died on the spot. Wang Daoyuan also closed his eyes and focused on visualizing lightning in his sea of consciousness. The lightning ape threw the cloud-patterned python's body to the side and copied him. It sat cross-legged and closed its eyes to meditate. In his sea of consciousness, the lightning ball that the lightning ape released with all its strength kept appearing. He felt the power of lightning contained in it. 10 to 10 hours later, he began to condense an earth attribute spiritual energy ball in his hand. The spiritual energy fluctuations in the spiritual energy ball were constantly changing. Sometimes it was peaceful, sometimes it was violent, sometimes it was stagnant, and sometimes it was active. After more than 2 hours, the spiritual energy fluctuations in the spiritual energy ball in his hand were very similar to lightning arts. Suddenly, he released the spiritual energy ball in his hand and hit a tree as thick as an adult's waist 500 feet away. A low and deep voice sounded like muffled thunder. The tree was blown apart and the spiritual energy ball exploded. The yellow spiritual energy spread to the surroundings. After 30 breaths, the entire tree turned into a pile of ashes and the yellow spiritual energy disappeared. This tree was an unranked spiritual plant. The direct damage of the spiritual energy ball was only slightly stronger than the golden blade art. However, the earth attribute spiritual energy had the corrosive effect of the dust-returning flame, causing continuous damage. The spiritual energy ball that was released this time could be considered as the earth divine thunder. At least it was somewhat similar to lightning arts. Chapter 210. The power of the lesser five elements lightning art depended on the cultivator's perception. Thus, not just anyone could cultivate it. Wang Daoyuan's earth divine lightning managed to display the lightning art's characteristics, barely passing the threshold. But he still had a long way to go before the earth divine lightning could be used in battle. Rumor had it that Zhao clan's early foundation establishment cultivator reached great success in the first stage of blooming water divine lightning. His speed was even faster than the average cultivator's golden saber art. From the start to the release of blooming water divine lightning, only half a breath's time was needed. The spiritual power consumption was only twice that of the golden saber art, but the power was 10 times that of the golden saber art. Earth divine lightning and blooming water divine lightning came from the same vein, so there shouldn't be much difference in speed and power. At his current level, earth divine lightning needed a dozen breaths' time, and its power was only slightly stronger than the golden saber art. Who knew how long it would take to reach the rumored level? Even if Wang Daoyuan was proficient in condensing earth attribute spiritual power balls, he still needed to cast them. However, during the casting process, he had to use earth attribute spiritual energy to simulate the lightning technique, which was the most time-consuming. To increase the casting speed, he had to increase his understanding of lightning and reduce the time needed to simulate the lightning art. This was a painstaking effort that couldn't be improved in a short time. Unless there was a cultivator proficient in earth divine lightning, he would be able to quickly increase his understanding. There were two important matters in his plan. One was to take over Fallen Dragon Ridge, which required him to reach Late Foundation establishment. The other was to go to the north of the mountain and search for pure Yin energy. According to Clone Chi Yun's memories, there was pure Yin energy in the north of the mountain where Corpse Sage passed away. According to Five Elements Sage's Beiyuan records, there was a place called Hell Valley in the north of the mountain. Deep within Hell Valley was a blooming water underworld spring. The spring water carried a large amount of pure Yin energy as it flowed into an underground river. Part of this underground river flowed out of the surface and into Hell Valley. Hell Valley's Yin energy was dense, gathering a large number of cultivators who walked the path of corpses. But the records in Beiyuan records were from the year 20,000 of the Beiyuan calendar, 50,000 years ago. 50,000 years had passed, and it was hard to say what was going on over there now. However, he still had to try. With the pure Yin Qi, he could make the inky jade lotus bloom and bear seeds. The patriarch and grand elder were not far away from the Pai Zi mansion. Even though it would take a few decades for him to open up the Pai Zi mansion, he still had to make some preparations in advance. Although the inky jade lotus could not directly increase the success rate of opening the purple palace, eating more lotus seeds and roots before breaking through could increase the strength of the soul. If the breakthrough failed, his body and soul would be severely injured. With the help of the inky jade lotus, his soul would recover much faster. As for his physical body, it recovered much faster than his soul. If he ate more powerful demonic beasts, he would be able to recover in no time. However, Shanbei also had a great enemy, Qi Yun's old rival, Qin Ji. Qi Yun had obtained the 10,000 corpse spiritual master's inheritance with him 40 years ago. 40 years ago, Qin Ji was already at the pinnacle of the foundation establishment realm. It was hard to say if he had already established his Violet Palace. When he arrived at Shanbei, he could not reveal anything related to the Wang clan, nor could he easily reveal his clone. Otherwise, if he attracted someone who might be in the Purple Palace realm, not only would his life be in danger, but the Wang clan would also be in danger. Even if Qin Ji did not have the ability to take down the Jade Spring Peak, he would not be able to leave any of the properties in the Wang clan's territory. The most important thing right now was to practice some powerful spells that had nothing to do with the Wang clan. The Earth Divine Lightning was safer. When the Thunderflame Taoist gave him the Earth Divine Lightning Jade Slip, the patriarch and the others had not yet arrived. Only the Thunderflame Daoist, himself, and his younger brother knew that the Earth Divine Lightning had fallen into his hands. When he cultivated, he was also in the Sky Beheading Mountain range. For the time being, there was no fourth person who knew that he could use the Earth Divine Lightning. Furthermore, Qinji's main fighting force was the refined corpses that he obtained from the 10,000 Corpse Spiritual Master. Although the Earth Divine Lightning was not a lightning attribute spiritual energy, it still carried the might of lightning. It was very effective against the refined corpses. Just to be safe, it was better to wait until his cultivation reached the 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm and he could use the Earth Divine Lightning in half a breath's time before heading to Shanbei. In the following days, he had been cultivating on Linji Mountain. 5 years later, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation had reached the 3rd level of the Foundation Establishment realm, but there was still a big gap between him and the 4th level. His attainments and formations had also reached the 2nd level of the upper grade. Although the Earth Divine Lightning had not reached the legendary level, its speed had reached 3 shots in 2 breaths, and its power was about 9 times that of the Golden Blade technique. He had originally wanted to cultivate to the 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm in Linji Mountain. However, bad news came from the Jade Spring Peak. 9th great-uncle and 10th great-uncle had passed away. 9th great-uncle lived for 118 years, while 10th great-uncle lived for 116 years. They could be considered to have died of old age. Wang Daoyuan had been learning how to refine talismans from 9th great-uncle since he was young. In his eyes, 9th great-uncle was almost like his own grandfather. After hearing the news, he immediately flew back to the Jade Spring Peak on his sword. The morning hall for the 2 great-uncles was set up in the ancestral temple. When he returned to the Jade Spring Peak, the clan members had already set up the morning hall. He was taught by 9th great-uncle, so he also had to wear mourning clothes according to the standards of his own grandson. After 7 days, the clan leader personally cremated the 2 great-uncles and buried them in the ancestral grave at the back of the mountain. When 10th great-uncle left, he did not leave any regrets. His lifelong pursuit was to expand the clan's business. In recent years, the clan's business had become more and more prosperous, and it could be said that he had fulfilled his dream. Although 9th great-uncle saw that the clan was becoming stronger day by day, he was also very happy in his heart. However, he still felt regretful that he had not seen the clan's 3rd-level talisman inheritance with his own eyes. This could not be helped, because there was no 3rd-level talisman inheritance for sale on the market. Wang Daoyuan could only comprehend a few 3rd-level lower-grade talismans. After all, it was not a system inheritance, so it was very difficult to truly grasp 3rd-level talismans. Moreover, Wang Daoyuan also lacked the materials to refine 3rd-level talismans. 3rd-level talisman brushes could still be bought at the Divine Weapon Pavilion. 3rd-level spirit ink could not be helped. 3rd-level cinnabar ore could not be found in the entire Qingli County. There might be some in the depths of the Sky Chop Mountain range, but the Wang clan did not have the ability to mine it now. They could also use the blood of 3rd-level demonic beasts, so there was no need to think about it. Even if the entire Wang clan's strength was added together, they would still not be a match for a 3rd-level demonic beast. Not to mention the most precious 3rd-level talisman paper, which required the bark of a 3rd-level spirit tree or the hide of a 3rd-level demonic beast, as well as 3rd-level spirit jade. None of these 3 materials were easy to obtain. As a result, Wang Daoyuan's talisman level had been stuck at the 2nd level of upper grade all these years. Wang Daoyuan was also helpless and could only let 9th great-uncle pass away with regret. Before 9th great-uncle passed away, his last words were for Wang Daoyuan to burn an incense stick in front of his grave after refining a 3rd-level talisman, so that he could be happy over there. When the great elder passed away, the entire Jade Spring Peak had to mourn for half a year. Wang Daoyuan also stayed at Jade Spring Peak for half a year to observe filial piety for 9th great-uncle. From then on, there were no longer any members of the Ji generation in the upper echelons of the Wang clan. However, the new generation had already begun to work for the clan. As early as 10 years ago, there were already members of the Ming generation in the clan. Now, the eldest and second son of the Ming generation had already reached adulthood. The eldest, Wang Mingxiang, had joined the Netherworld sect. This was also the custom of the subordinate clans of the Netherworld sect. Every generation had to have one member join the Netherworld sect. The second son, Wang Minghan, had a 6-inch 9-point earth spiritual root as his main spiritual root. He mainly cultivated the earth origin technique that Wang Daoyuan had seized back then. Now that he had just turned 20, he had already reached the 6th level of qi refinement and was working in the mining mountain hall. The Ji generation had withered away, and the Ming generation had risen to prominence. Even though Wang Daoyuan was only in his 50s and still had a long lifespan, he could not help but sigh with emotion. The new generation had replaced the old. Chapter 211. Since the two elders had passed away, their positions couldn't be left empty. The business hall was managed by Wang Shouju, the son of the 10th great-uncle. Because Wang Shouju was inexperienced, he didn't become an elder directly. Instead, he was appointed as the chief steward. The position of the first elder was taken over by Wang Daochang, the third brother. The original mining mountain hall managed all the mines and forest farms of the family. There were too many things for one hall to manage. The purpose of the mining mountain hall was to train Wang Daochang. Now that Wang Daochang had become the first elder, it was not suitable for the mining mountain hall to continue managing most of the family's businesses. After the discussion of the elders, the spiritual wood hall was separated from the mining mountain hall to manage the family's forest farms. In the future, the mining mountain hall would only be responsible for managing mining matters. Because there were no suitable elders to manage these two halls, they could only be managed by the chief steward temporarily. The mining mountain hall promoted Wang Shouzheng, who had done a good job, to be the chief steward. Wang Shouzheng was ranked 17th and was now at the 7th level of qi refinement. For many years, he had been in charge of the unimportant mines of the family. After the reform, he became the steward of the mining mountain hall and had been performing well. The spiritual wood hall promoted Wang Shouzheng, the 19th great-uncle, to be the chief steward. He had been managing the spiritual wood of the south mountain of Lingji Mountain for years. After mourning for the 9th great-uncle, Wang Daoyuan was ready to set off for the northern part of Huiyan Mountain. The repair of the wave-chasing flying boat would have to wait. Although Wang Daoyuan was already a second-level upper-grade array master and had the ability to repair the flying boat array, he didn't have experience in this area after all. If he went to repair the flying boat now, the success rate was not high. If the more he cultivated, the worse it would be, the more the loss. Besides, the Wang family didn't have a second-level upper-grade refiner. With his own ability, he might not be able to dismantle the flying boat. Zhao Liang was only a second-level upper-grade refiner. If the core of the flying boat was damaged, he wouldn't be able to repair it. Wang Daoyuan was really worried about asking the Yang family for help. Therefore, the repair of the flying boat would have to wait until Zhao Liang's refining level reached the second-level upper grade or until he had time to study refining techniques in the future. The Wang family wasn't ready to open up a trade route at present, and the flying boat was not urgently needed. Moreover, the Wang family also had a replacement for the flying boat, which was Yin Yi's dual-purpose flying tiger. Now, if he tied a spirit ship with a floating array formation to its tail, it could also function as a flying boat. Although Yin Yi had learned her lesson and needed twice the amount of barbecued meat to pull the boat, the price was still much lower than using the flying boat. There was nothing for him to take care of in the family, so there was no need for him to stay any longer. Although his cultivation was still at Foundation Establishment Level 3, Chen Ji did not know that Qi Yun had fallen into his hands. As long as he didn't expose the soul-extinguishing bell and his doppelganger, Chen Ji would know who he was. Therefore, those with lower cultivation levels would not be in much danger. In order to cause trouble in Shanbei and not implicate the Wang family, Wang Daoyuan left Yun Yi, the Golden Wings, and the Thunder Ape behind. They had been with the Wang family for a long time and were already familiar with each other. Even if Wang Daoyuan was not by their side, they would not harm the Wang family. Yin Yi, in particular, was busy running transportation and earning barbecue meat all day long. She had long become friends with the other clansmen. Moreover, there were many demons in Shanbei. Raising spirit beasts would be viewed as enemies by the demons. Wang Daoyuan informed the new Grand Elder, Wang Daochang, about his travels. He was too lazy to manage the family's affairs, so Wang Daochang did not stop him. He only sent Wang Daoxing to guard Linji Mountain. Wang Daoyuan quietly left Jade Spring Peak and found a secluded place in the sky/mountain range. He used a disguise technique and changed his appearance to Zhao Yunqing's. He changed out of his family's attire and into the attire of itinerant cultivators. Then, he flew north on his sword. The flying sword he used was the flat wave sword. The shocking wind sword was a wind attribute Dharma artifact. It was too eye-catching, so it was better to put it away. Wu Yi was originally from this side, so it was easy for others to see through him if he used the black gold sword. The flat wave sword was slow. It took 14 to 16 hours to reach Guiyan Market. Guiyan Market was in the northern part of Guiyan Mountain. At the entrance of the northern part of Guiyan Valley, it was the place where the Netherworld sect traded with the demons. The goods of the Netherworld sect entered Guiyan Valley from Golden Goose City, passed through Guiyan Valley, and arrived at Guiyan Market. The Netherworld sect had a Zifu disciple overseeing Guiyan Market. The demons had also sent a rank 3 demon beast to oversee this place. The north of Guiyan Mountain had always been inhabited by humans and demons. The area around Guiyan Market was mainly inhabited by humans. There were very few demon beasts. Some of the mountains with spirit veins even had clans and small sections. The 2,000 li north of Guiyan Mountain was not much different from the southern part of the mountain. Although it was not as densely covered with rivers as Qingli County, it was more suitable for farming than Heian County, which was mainly grassland. The humans here were still mainly farming. 2,000 li north of the mountain, there was a lack of water. The environment was mainly grassland. The humans living there mainly herded animals. 10,000 li north of the mountain was a desert. There were very few mortals here. Further north was an ice field. There were almost no humans living there. The demon race was very widespread. There were demon beasts scattered all over Guiyan Mountain. 10,000 li west of Guiyan Market, there were many demon beasts gathered in the mountains. There were even high-rank demon beasts. 2,000 li north of the mountain, in the grassland, desert, and ice field, the number of humans was far less than that of demon beasts. High-rank demon beasts could give birth to half-demon offspring. In the north of Guiyan Mountain, half-demons were also a powerful force. Some of the half-demons were close to humans. Some were demons of the same bloodline. Most of the half-demons were neutral. They lived in tribes all over the northern part of the mountain. As long as they had obvious human and demon characteristics, they could be considered half-demons. For example, the head and second head of the red-beard bandits did not look any different from humans. However, they did not look like humans. Instead, they looked more like the mane of demon beasts. Furthermore, they had inherited the innate techniques of the demon race. They were also considered half-demons. The scale of Guiyan Market was not small. The entire market had close to 2,000 shops. After all, it was the business center between the northern and southern parts of the mountain. Various forces had shops here. The entire market was shaped like a trumpet. It was narrow in the south and wide in the north. The shops at the southern end of the market were distributed along the cliffs on both sides of the valley. The terrain was narrow. There was only one main road and 2 rows of shops. The further north it was, the more shops there were. The streets were crisscrossed. Wang Daoyuan landed outside the market. Guiyan Market was a place where good and bad people mixed together. It was best not to be too high profile. Guiyan Market was filled with people from all sides. Especially demons. Below rank 3, their intelligence was not as good as normal people and they were especially wild. The managers could not set any strict rules. They only forbade fighting in the market. If they damaged other people's things, they had to compensate. In addition, the market did not allow the sale of living things. Demons were not happy to sell demon beasts. Humans were not happy to sell slaves. They might as well ban all of them to avoid any disputes. Processed beast meat could only come from low-rank spirit beasts raised by humans or half-demons. The other businesses in the market were not much different from the ones in Clear Glass Market. Wang Daoyuan walked into the market. Immediately, a level 3 Qi refinement human cultivator came forward to talk to him. "Senior, is this your first time in Guiyan Market? Although my cultivation is low, I have lived here since I was young. If you want to buy something, I can help you find the most affordable shop." This person was a broker. He helped some shops to attract business and collected commissions and a percentage of the shop's profits. Guiyan Market was a place with many forces. It was not like Oasis, where the higher-ups were one family and the brokers were the higher-ups' dogs. The brokers here didn't have much of a background. They were all rogue cultivators with poor cultivation talent and no special skills. They could only rely on their eloquence and familiarity with the market. They pulled in business for the shops and earned some hard-earned money. Wang Daoyuan was unfamiliar with this place. He wanted to stay in Guiyan Market for a while and ask about the northern part of the mountain. He wanted to know about Hell Valley and 10,000 corpse Daoists' resting place. If he went in without knowing anything, he would easily be cheated to death. Chapter 212. In fact, he had Wu Yi and Qi Yun, two clones from Shanbei, so he knew a thing or two about Shanbei. It was just that the situation that Qi Yun knew was already something that happened decades ago. His soul was damaged many times and many of his memories were fragmented. When Wu Yi's cultivation wasn't high, he had become one of Blood Shadow's men and rarely traveled outside. After he reached the Foundation establishment realm, he had been carrying out missions to earn spirit stones. He only knew information related to missions and knew very little about other things. Moreover, there was no such place as Hell Valley in their memories. Since this broker delivered himself to his doorstep, he could get some information from him. Wang Daoyuan had some understanding of Wild Goose Market, but he didn't have any connections here, so he couldn't be as well informed as these brokers. Moreover, no matter how weak a broker was, he was still a local tyrant and had a considerable network of connections in the local area. Sometimes, it would be much better to ask them for help than to do it himself. Wang Daoyuan was looking for a place to stay, so he asked, "Where is there a place to stay?" "I want a safe place." The broker smiled, "I understand Senior's request. Rest assured, I will take you to the publicly recognized safest inn." Wang Daoyuan wanted to understand the situation here as soon as possible, so he chatted a bit more with the broker. He asked, "Which force opened this inn? Why is it recognized as the safest?" Broker answered, "This inn is called Guiyuan Inn. It's run by Guiyuan Sword Sect." Wang Daoyuan knew of the Origin Sword Sect, a vassal of the Zhao clan. After the three great sects defeated the Zhao clan, the Origin Sword Sect suffered heavy losses and disappeared. South of Wild Goose Mountain, there were many sword cultivator inheritances passed down, most of which came from the Origin Sword Sect. For example, Wu Yi's Borrowing Sword, Heaven Cleaving Sword, Innumerable Sword Art, all came from the Origin Sword Sect. The Origin Sword Sect's founding ancestor was a mid-Violet Palace stage sword cultivator, known as Origin Returning Cultivator. When the Zhao clan was still around, he was rewarded with a third-grade spirit vein for his contribution in stopping the beast tide. Guiyuan Wanderer opened his sect and accepted disciples, establishing the Guiyuan Sword Sect. Later on, the three great sects defeated the Zhao royal family, and Guiyuan Wanderer died in battle. After that, there was no more news about the Guiyuan Sword Sect in Shannon. From Qi Yun and Wu Yi's memories, he learned that the sect leader of the Guiyuan Sword Sect had fled to the north of Mount Huiyan with the elite disciples and the core inheritance of the sect. He snatched a lower tier, 3 spirit vein and rebuilt the Guiyuan Sword Sect. The mountain gate of the Guiyuan Sword Sect was more than 3,000 miles west of Guiyan City. Most sword cultivators were honest people. Good and bad were all on the surface. Among the major forces north of Mount Huiyan, the Beiyuan sword sect had the best reputation. Therefore, Beiyuan Inn was naturally the safest and most reliable place to stay. Broker stood there with an embarrassed smile on his face. Wang Daoyuan had been out there for many years, so he naturally knew what this meant. He took out a spirit stone and handed it to Broker, saying, "Take me to Return to Origin Inn first. While you're at it, help me find out if there are any shops for rent or sale. I want a clean shop. Don't let a bunch of bullshit happen after the business opens. After it's done, I don't care about 8 or 10 spirit stones." He planned to buy or rent a shop here and open a shop for alchemy. He wanted to buy some special elixirs of Shannon and enrich the variety of spiritual plants in the space of the spiritual pearl. Otherwise, wouldn't this trip to Shannon be in vain? Broker's appetite was much smaller than the one in Oasis. When he heard that there was a reward, he immediately became excited and hurriedly said, "Thank you, Senior. Don't worry, I will definitely find a suitable shop for you. Senior, my name is Fu Cheng. If you have any orders, you only need to tell the people at Return to Origin Inn. I won't guarantee that I will be there at any time." Fu Cheng took the spirit stone from Wang Daoyuan's hand and eagerly led the way in front. Guiyan City was quite lively. Every street was bustling with people coming and going. Most of the people on the street were humans. There were also many half-demons. There were almost no demon beasts running around. In less than half a cup of tea's time, Fu Cheng brought Wang Daoyuan to Return to Origin Inn. Return to Origin Inn's business was pretty good. The hall on the first floor of the inn was the dining area. It was bustling and full of people. When he saw Fu Cheng bringing people in, the inn's greeter immediately came forward and asked, "Senior, are you having a meal or staying in the inn?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Staying in the inn." The greeter asked, "Our inn has a shared bed, a single room. Behind the shop, there are a few independent courtyards. Which one do you want?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "A single room." As a foundation establishment cultivator, living in a shared bed was too cheap. Living in an independent courtyard was too high profile. A single room was better. The greeter brought Wang Daoyuan to the second floor and came to a single room. He handed a token to him and said, "Senior, this is the token that controls the formation of this room. Keep it safe. If you need anything, just use the token to send a message. In addition, this single room costs 2 spirit stones per day. What do you think?" Wang Daoyuan took out 20 spirit stones and handed them to the greeter, saying, "I'll stay for 10 days first." The greeter took the spirit stones and left happily. Wang Daoyuan entered the single room. The room was not big and the furnishings were also very simple. There was only a bed and a table. The single room he was in was right above the hall. The window was right above the entrance of Return to Origin Inn. He opened the window and casually looked outside. He saw a young man walking towards the entrance. This person had the appearance of a young man. His cultivation was at the second layer of foundation establishment. Although Wang Daoyuan did not recognize this young man's face, he felt that he was somewhat familiar. This person was the son of the former head of Green Willow Province, Shi Zhenbang, Shi Xinghua. As soon as the young man arrived at the entrance, a third-layer foundation establishment young man came out of the shop to welcome him. He welcomed the person who came from outside into the backyard. Wang Daoyuan carefully listened to the conversation between the two. He heard the young man coming out of the shop say, "Brother Shi is finally here. You've made me wait for a long time." The young man with the surname Shi smiled and said, "The journey was long and I was delayed. I hope Brother Li doesn't mind. How is it? Is young Master Zhao still here?" The voice was somewhat familiar. In addition, his surname was Shi. Wang Daoyuan remembered who this person was. Green Willow Province's Shi Zhenbang's son, Shi Xinghua. The two people's voices became softer and softer. Then, as if they had entered a place with a soundproof formation, he could no longer hear their voices. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat confused. Shi Zhenbang had just passed away a few years ago. The Shi family had lost its pillar of support. Their days in Green Willow Province should not be easy. At this time, Shi Xingguo was not guarding his home. He should be cultivating in order to make a comeback. Why did they come all the way to the wild goose market, which was so far away from them? He even said he wanted to pay a visit to young Master Zhao. The Shi family had been the leader of Green Willow Province for so many years. In the past, they even had the title of Heian Commandery Duke. Shi Xingguo was the heir of the Shi family. If the imperial Zhao family had not been overthrown, he would have been Heian Commandery Duke. The sect master of the Beiyuan sword sect was surnamed Li. This person with the surname Li was very likely a descendant of the Beiyuan sword sect master. For the two of them to respectfully address him as young master, his status was definitely not low. In addition, with this surname, there was an 80% chance that he was a descendant of the imperial Zhao family. The imperial Zhao family was on good terms with the Beiyuan sword sect. They were also in cahoots with the Shi family of Green Willow Province. Thinking back to the recent 20 to 30 years, Green Willow Province had been recruiting and expanding their strength. They were going to cause trouble. Shi Zhenbang was dead. The Shi family was weak in Green Willow Province. It was clearly not appropriate to cause trouble now. However, since they chose to cause trouble at this time, there were two possibilities. Either they had more powerful experts and did not lack a peak foundation establishment cultivator like Shi Zhenbang. Or Shi Zhenbang was not dead at all and released the news of his death to make the underworld sect lower their guard. Chapter 213. After deducing these two possibilities, Wang Daoyuan himself was shocked. No matter what the situation was, the Green Willow State and the Origin Sword sect might stab the Underworld sect in the back. As a result, the Wang family's position became somewhat awkward. Regardless of whether it was the Green Willow State going west or the Beiyuan Sword sect going south, the Wang family was likely to be attacked. Moreover, once they made a move, the Yang family, as an elder of the Nether sect, would definitely fight them to the death. As an ally of the Yang family, how should the Wang family stand? If the Zhao family's hidden forces made a move, they definitely had a certain degree of confidence. The Wang family was an old vassal of the Zhao family, and they had been bullied by the external branch of the underworld sect for many years. Before the Zhao family took action, they would definitely try to draw the Wang family to their side. Once the Zhao family took action, the ghost sect would have to guard against the Wang family's betrayal and force the Wang family to take a stand. It was still unknown how much wealth the Zhao clan had. It was hard to say who would win or lose. If the Wang family stood on the wrong side, it was very likely that they would repeat the mistakes of their ancestor. He had to inform the 12th uncle about this so that he could be prepared. This was to prevent the Wang clan from being at a loss when the two clans started fighting. It was even more impossible for him to inform the Netherworld sect. If he revealed the secret, he would be announcing the Wang clan's side. The Zhao clan's forces were all hidden in places where the three great sects could not easily make a move. Now that the Wang family had revealed the secret, the Netherworld sect could only be on guard at most. They couldn't wipe out the hidden forces of the Zhao family. The forces of the Zhao clan did not dare to touch the Netherworld sect, but did they not dare to touch the Wang clan? Although he wasn't sure how far the Zhao family's preparations had progressed, he was still worried. However, the Netherworld sect was not in a situation where they could not take care of themselves. Even if the Zhao clan was strong enough to defeat the Netherworld sect, they would not choose to attack head-on at this time. Once the Zhao clan displayed their extremely powerful strength, perhaps the three major sects would join forces again. Moreover, the Zhao clan had lost their 10,000 years of foundation more than 300 years ago, and all the experts in the clan had been wiped out. All these years, they could only hide in the deep mountains and forests. Without sufficient resources to nurture experts, their strength would not be too outrageous. The remaining forces of the Zhao clan hidden in various places, as well as the bloodline of Lord Waterfront in Linhai Prefecture. Their overall strength would not surpass the Netherworld sect by much at most. Moreover, there was a high probability that their strength was inferior to that of the Underworld sect. The possibility of taking down a sect was not high, so it was impossible for them to be a match for the three great sections. Therefore, the Zhao clan would definitely wait for the three great sects to fight to the death before making a move. In the last small beast tide, the Underworld sect had used the Wang family's advance warning to trick the 1,000 Spirits sect. The 10,000 Spirits sect had suffered significant losses. They would not try to take down the Underworld sect at this time. On the other hand, the Cruel Sun Palace was not as strong as the Underworld sect, and there was also the threat of the Wei Kingdom in the west. It was impossible for the Cruel Sun Palace to fight to the death with the Underworld sect without the 1,000 Spirits sect taking action. Under such circumstances, the three major sects did not dare to force their way in. Since the three major sects did not fight, the forces of the Zhao clan did not dare to make a move either. The situation in the Zhao country would continue to be stable. The only instability was the conflict between the Underworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace at the border. This conflict had been going on for more than 30 years. Although the upper echelons of both sides had been trying their best to restrain themselves and control the scale of the conflict, it hadn't escalated to the point of an all-out war. However, as the saying goes, no one is good at fighting, and no one is good at scolding. Even a fight between ordinary people could get angry and eventually blow up, let alone a conflict between two major forces. Many great wars started from small matters that gradually escalated. The two sects had been fighting on a small scale for 30 years. Their anger should not be small. It was very likely that they would directly fight because of a sudden incident. Even if there was no sudden incident, the forces of the Zhao clan could forcefully create one. It was hard to say how long the situation in the Zhao country would be stable for. Wang Daoyuan only hoped that it would be stable for more than 30 years. 30 years was enough for him to take down the fallen Dragon Ridge and move a portion of his clansmen to the Five Elements mystic realm. At that time, no matter how the situation in the Zhao country changed, the Wang clan would be able to sit on the fishing platform. Although he had to inform the 12th uncle of this matter as soon as possible, there was no rush. After all, he was still staying in the territory of the Beiyuan sword sect. It was not safe to send a message. He patiently stayed in the Beiyuan inn for 3 days. Then, Fu Qing sent a message. Knowing that Wang Daoyuan wanted to open a shop, Fu Qing immediately activated his network to look for shops that were interested in selling or renting out. There were many shops opened by rogue cultivators in the Guiyan market. It was common for shops to close due to poor management. Fu Qing quickly found a few shops that were interested in renting out or selling. After finding them, he immediately informed Wang Daoyuan to check out the shops. Wang Daoyuan immediately walked out of the inn. Fu Qing was waiting for him at the entrance. Seeing him come out, Fu Qing quickly bowed and said, "Senior, I've already contacted a few shops that are interested in renting out or selling. I'll bring you to take a look." Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "Lead the way." Fu Qing brought him north. As they walked, he asked, "Senior, what kind of shop do you want to open?" In this market, different businesses are suitable for different locations. Also, try to avoid the shops of the various factions. For example, the Beiyuan sword sect could be considered a medium-sized force. There were more than 10 shops near the Beiyuan inn. They were all businesses of the Beiyuan sword sect. These shops sell ores, spirit wood, magic tools, spirit talismans, pills, formation discs, spirit grains. There are also restaurants and inns. They do all kinds of businesses. There are even brothels. If Senior is interested, you can go and have some fun. Wang Daoyuan pretended to be angry and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Continue talking about the shops." Fu Qing was shocked and quickly returned to the topic. The shops of the other factions are mostly in the same situation. They do many kinds of businesses in one place. If you open a shop near the shops of these factions, no matter what kind of business you do, you'll be stealing the livelihood of these factions. They might try to trip you up. Even if they don't play dirty and compete openly, a shop opened by a rogue cultivator will find it hard to compete with those large factions. So, if you want to do business, it's best to stay away from the shops of these factions. Hearing these words, Wang Daoyuan felt very strange in his heart. The Guiyuan sword sect was a sword cultivation sect. Sword cultivators were all one-track minded. They were not interested in things that had nothing to do with the sword. The Beiyuan records of the Five Elements spiritual master recorded the situation of many sword sections. The businesses of these sword sects were usually inseparable from the sword. Their main business was ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement. These businesses were all related to the sword. But this Guiyuan sword sect was more special. Not only did they sell ores, spirit wood, and magic tools, but they also did not forget about pills, talismans, and formations. They also sold spirit grains, opened restaurants, and even brothels. Opening a brothel was something that most factions who wanted to save face would not be willing to do. It was not embarrassing enough. The Guiyuan sword sect was a sword cultivation sect. They should be the most upright and plain-spoken. Why did they even do the flesh business? Wang Daoyuan could not understand. He asked Fu Cheng, "Isn't this Guiyuan sword sect a sword cultivation sect?" A sword cultivation sect should only do ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement business. Why does this Guiyuan sword sect do all kinds of business? Other than ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement, when did they start doing all the other businesses? Fu Qing smiled, "Senior, you are really experienced and knowledgeable." At first, the Guiyuan sword sect only did ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement business. Starting from 30 years ago, the Guiyuan sword sect started to do other businesses. At first, they only sold spirit grains. Later on, they slowly started to do pills and spirit talismans business. In the last 10 years, they started to do formations, restaurants, and brothels business. Wang Daoyuan's heart sank. This time was just right when the oasis started to recruit people. The Guiyuan sword sect should have colluded with the oasis long ago. They should have been preparing for 30 years. Chapter 214. If the Zhao clan wanted to take back the state of Zhao from the three major sects, Qi disciple cultivators wouldn't be of much use in such a battle. The Qi disciple cultivators recruited by the Green Willow continent had to reach foundation establishment before they could become cannon fodder. The Green Willow continent's method of expanding their power was a bit like panning for gold. Winning by quantity, they could always find a few talents. As for the eliminated sand, it wasn't as if they were completely useless. There were rich resources around the Green Willow continent, but there were too many demon beasts and no one went to exploit them. Those rogue cultivators attracted to the Green Willow continent, even if they weren't worth cultivating, they could still earn a lot of resources by risking their lives around the Green Willow continent. The upper echelons of the Green Willow continent used brokers to sell pills, talismans, and other resources at high prices to exploit them. The upper echelons then used these benefits to obtain pills, talismans, and other resources from the Wang clan and other clans to cultivate the gold they had found. The Green Willow continent's model was based on the Shi clan's dominance of the Green Willow continent and the rich resources around it. In the vicinity of the Guiyan market, the Guiyuan sword sect was only a second-rate power and their sect leader was only an early-stage Zifu realm cultivator. The overall strength of the Guiyuan sword sect was even weaker than the Underworld sect. It was far inferior to the Shi clan's status in the Green Willow continent and couldn't rely on exploiting rogue cultivators to obtain resources. Furthermore, the environment in the northern part of the mountain wasn't as good as the Green Willow continent and resources were lacking. The Green Willow continent's method of cultivating talents obviously couldn't be implemented in the northern part of the mountain. The two walked north along the main road in front of the Guiyuan Inn. Not long after, they saw a very busy shop. On the door of the shop, there was a signboard with the words, Guiyuan Sword Hall, written on it. Wang Daoyuan asked, "What does this Guiyuan Sword Pavilion do?" Fu Qing quickly answered, "Senior, this Guiyuan Sword Pavilion is also a shop opened by the Guiyuan Sword sect. But it's a bit strange, this Sword Pavilion doesn't seem to want to earn spirit stones. It only teaches rogue cultivators spells and cultivation experience. If a rogue cultivator is talented, the Beiyuan sword sect will take him in and make him a disciple of the Beiyuan sword sect. As you know, rogue cultivators don't have a good life. Without a system of inheritance, it's hard to learn the various arts of cultivation. Rogue cultivators elsewhere can obtain resources by killing demon beasts, but they can't kill demon beasts here. Rogue cultivators could only make a living by picking herbs and doing manual labor, not to mention practicing magic. The Beiyuan sword sect imparts Dharma spells and cultivation experience to itinerant cultivators for free. In addition, if one has good aptitude, they can become a disciple of the Beiyuan sword sect. This attracts many itinerant cultivators. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was suddenly enlightened. The Beiyuan sword sect's method of nurturing talents was to walk the path of the elite. Imparting Dharma spells and cultivation experience to rogue cultivators did not cost much, and they could pick out good seedlings from the rogue cultivators. In addition, the Beiyuan sword sect had a very good reputation. When doing business, reputation was also a form of capital. Wang Daoyuan asked, when did this Beiyuan sword pavilion start operating? Fu Qing thought for a moment and said, it's been about 30 years since the Beiyuan sword sect started the business of spirit grains and talismans. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, sure enough. The Zhao clan's preparations began after Shi Zhenbang snatched the foundation establishment pills and attracted the itinerant cultivators. The conflict between the underworld sect and the cruel Sun Palace also started more than 30 years ago. From the looks of it, it was very likely that the Zhao clan deliberately stirred up trouble in order to divert the attention of the three major sects and make it easier for them to accumulate strength in secret. If they had just started accumulating strength more than 30 years ago, there should still be a long time before they made a move. Unless the Zhao clan nurtured subordinates like Wang Daoyuan did to himself. Elixirs, spirit fruits, spirit beast meat and other cultivation resources should be consumed as much as possible. Otherwise, most cultivators would not be able to grow in a short 30 years. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan was no longer in a hurry. Even another 30 years might not be enough to nurture a sizable batch of foundation establishment cultivators. The Wang clan did not want to be a minister of the emperor, they only wanted to protect their clan's foundation. Right now, they did not have the right to sit on the fence. If they were too weak, they would be courting death. If they dragged on for a few more decades, the Wang clan would be able to watch the show in peace after transferring all the mortals in the clan. After the victor was decided, it would not be too late to support the winning side. He was afraid that if the Zhao clan did not secretly fan the flames, the Netherworld sect and the cruel Sun Palace would not be able to suppress the flames and a war would break out in advance. At that time, it would be too late for all the factions to cry. Wang Daoyuan decided to open a shop near the Beiyuan sword sect first and then slowly inquire about the Beiyuan sword sect. Soon, Fu Qing brought him to a shop that sold elixirs called the Li clan's elixir shop. This shop was more than half a kilometer northeast of the Beiyuan Inn. The shops in the Guiyan market were relatively large, with an average of a few acres. Therefore, the distance of half a kilometer was considered relatively close. Wang Daoyuan was more satisfied with this place. It was convenient to observe the Beiyuan sword sect's shop, and it would not affect business because it was too close. Although he had already determined his target, he still followed Fu Qing and walked around the other shops that were interested in selling. He could also understand the situation in the Guiyan market. After walking around, the two returned to the Li clan's elixir shop. The shopkeeper of the Li clan's elixir shop was an itinerant cultivator. He was at the 6th level of foundation establishment and was about 150 years old. After working hard in the Guiyan market for many years, he wanted to earn more spirit stones and strive to open the Violet Palace. Unfortunately, his alchemy skills were not up to standard. After working hard for many years, the spirit stones he earned were barely enough for his usual cultivation. He was less than 100 years away from the upper limit of his lifespan. There was no hope for him to cultivate to the peak of foundation establishment. Rather than wasting his life here, it was better to find a spiritual mountain and start a family. Wang Daoyuan haggled with the shopkeeper and finally spent 2,000 spirit stones to buy the shop. It also came with many Tier 1 spirit herbs and a small number of Tier 2 spirit herbs. Because buying and selling a shop in the Guiyan market did not require any procedures. The shopkeeper gave the shop's deed and the defensive formation control token to Wang Daoyuan, and the shop's handover was completed. The shop's defensive formation was a low Tier 2 spirit herb. After Wang Daoyuan closed the formation, he entered the shop. The shop's layout was that of an ordinary shop, and there was nothing special about it. The backyard was more than 2 acres in size. There was a pill refining room and an Immortals cave. The rest of the area was opened up into spirit fields, and there were some Tier 1 spirit herbs planted in the spirit fields. He gave Fu Qing 10 spirit stones for his hard work and sent him away. Then, he began to decorate the shop. In fact, it was just a matter of changing the signboard. He took down the old signboard, scraped off the words on it, and wrote, Huang's Pill Shop. Wang Daoyuan planned to change his name to Huang Wanli. After he was done, he might be able to scam the Huang family. After settling down, he also used a high-grade communication jade talisman to send a message to the 12th uncle, reminding him to make early preparations. The shop did not have any opening ceremony, so the business was not very good. He refined a cauldron of Tier 2 spirit herbs every day, which was enough to sell for 7 to 8 days. A month after the shop opened, a middle-aged cultivator at the 3rd level of foundation establishment came to the shop. This person wore a white robe with 3 small golden swords embroidered on the cuffs. He also carried a long sword on his back. This was the standard attire of the Guiyuan sword sect. Wang Daoyuan asked, May I know if Dao Yu is here to buy pills or sell spirit herbs? The person smiled and said, I'm from the Guiyuan sword sect. I'm not here for pills or spirit herbs. I'm here for Dao Yu. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, You're here for me. I only sell pills here, not people. The sword sect cultivator smiled and said, My Guiyuan sword sect is currently recruiting pill refiners. As long as Dao Yu is willing to join my sect, you can state your conditions. Chapter 2:15. If the Guiyuan sword sect wanted to cause trouble, Wang Daoyuan didn't want to get involved. Spying on the Guiyuan sword sect didn't require him to risk his life. Even if he was an alchemist and wouldn't be used as cannon fodder, there was a high chance that he wouldn't have any freedom. His main goal was to find enough pure yin qi, not to be the grandson of the Guiyuan sword sect. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, Then I'll have to disappoint Dao Yu. I'm used to being a wild crane and don't want to be controlled by others. All I want in my life is to open my violet palace. Can your sect give me a piece of yin-yang purple jade? Even a power like the underworld sect that had several golden core cultivators couldn't easily take out a piece of yin-yang purple jade, much less a small sect like the Guiyuan sword sect that only had one violet palace realm cultivator. The smile on the Guiyuan sword sect member's face disappeared and he said coldly, Dao Yu, are you looking down on my Guiyuan sword sect? Wang Daoyuan didn't seem to notice the change in his expression and said, I only want to cultivate and open my violet palace. Even if I can't cultivate, I want to find a peaceful place and establish a family. I'm not interested in joining a sect. I'm just a wild person, how would I dare to look down on the Guiyuan sword sect? However, we walk different paths and can't work together. I hope fellow Daoist can forgive me for not being here. The Guiyuan sword sect member sneered, I'm afraid this isn't up to Dao Yu. What if I force Dao Yu to join? Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, So you're a disciple of the Guiyuan sword sect master. If your sect can't accept me, then I'll leave Guiyan market. There are more than 10 countries in Beiyuan Xiuxian, where can't you find a wild crane? The Li cultivator said disdainfully, I'm afraid it'll be a bit difficult for Dao Yu to leave Guiyan market. At the very least, Dao Yu won't be able to pass this trial. Sword cultivators were extremely strong in battle. Normal cultivators of the same level weren't a match for sword cultivators. With Wang Daoyuan's current strength, he could even defeat an average 6th level foundation establishment cultivator. What was a sword cultivator of the same level? He smiled and said, Could it be that this wild goose market square has become the private property of the Origin Sword sect? The Netherworld sect, the demon race, and the half-demon race don't have the final say, but the Beiyuan sword sect does? The cultivator surnamed Li said with a smile. The Beiyuan sword sect naturally can't control the Guiyan market square, but managing a loose cultivator like Dao Yu isn't a problem. There's no need for anyone else to do anything. I can make you submit myself. Wang Daoyuan also smiled and said, I've long heard that sword cultivators are powerful in fights of magical powers, but I've never had the chance to experience it. Since Dao Yu Li is willing to teach me, I am more than happy to oblige. After saying that, Wang Daoyuan took out the token that controlled the array formation and opened the store's defensive array formation. Afterwards, he took out the soundproof array formation disk and installed spirit stones on it. After activating it, the entire store was enveloped in a soundproof array formation. After activating the array, Wang Daoyuan took out 40 to 50 middle-grade second-level talismans and said, restrain yourself when you fight, don't break the array formation. Is Dao Yu Li ready? Seeing him take out so many talismans, the cultivator surnamed Li was a bit apprehensive, but he still refused to admit defeat. A few talismans are nothing, watch my sword break 10,000 techniques. Wang Daoyuan shook his head inwardly. This brat wasn't suited to be a sword cultivator. Sword cultivators advance courageously and never turn back. When this brat saw dozens of middle-grade second-level talismans, he was a bit scared. With fear in his heart, when he drew his sword, he didn't have the conviction to cut through everything. He simply couldn't unleash the true strength of a sword cultivator. Wang Daoyuan stuck 2 earth armor talismans on his body and said, please. The cultivator surnamed Li took out a middle-grade second-level longsword. Holding the sword in his right hand, he lightly brushed the sword with his left and right fingers. A streak of sword chi shot towards Wang Daoyuan. The classic starting move of a sword cultivator, borrowing a sword to cast a spell. This streak of sword chi was very fast. If Wang Daoyuan didn't use the mist escape, he definitely wouldn't be able to dodge it. He simply gave up on dodging and immediately activated the 2 layers of earth armor talismans on his body. He also took out a golden saber talisman. When the sword chi hit Wang Daoyuan's body, the first layer of earth armor talisman dimmed a lot, but it should be able to withstand the same attack one more time. Wang Daoyuan himself had also cultivated some moves of the sword cultivator. In terms of power alone, there was still a huge difference in the power of the sword that he had used to borrow the sword to cast the spell. The foundation of a sword cultivator was the unique imperial sword technique, in addition to the dedication to the sword and the conviction to break 10,000 techniques with one sword. With the unique imperial sword technique, the power of all sword cultivator spells would greatly increase. As for conviction, the cultivator surnamed Li in front of him clearly didn't qualify. If he encountered a sword cultivator with the same level of cultivation, the starting move just now would be enough to break through a layer of earth armor talisman. The cultivator surnamed Li saw that his sword wasn't effective. The golden saber technique also flew in front of him. He waved his long sword and a streak of sword chi shot out, colliding with the golden saber technique. The sword chi was scattered by the golden saber technique. The cultivator surnamed Li waved his sword again, only then was the middle-grade second-level golden saber talisman completely scattered. Wang Daoyuan felt that he had overestimated a sword cultivator. The middle-grade second-level golden saber talisman was just a toy in his hands. But for a sword cultivator of the same level as him, it was still a great threat. It seems that not all sword cultivators have the strength to surpass those of the same level. The cultivator surnamed Li didn't gain the upper hand in this exchange. He was a bit flustered and exasperated. What kind of skill is using an external object? Wang Daoyuan laughed saying, you're a sword cultivator, bullying a pill cultivator like me is skill. The cultivator surnamed Li's face darkened, saying, since Dao Yu is so obstinate, then don't blame me for being impolite. Saying so, he controlled his flying sword, making it float in the air. Soon after, the flying sword split off into streaks of sword chi to form the phantom of a long sword. This move was the myriad sword technique. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to be careless, using 5 more earth armor talismans on himself. He also threw out the 20-odd offensive talismans in his hand. These talismans weren't thrown around randomly. Under the control of Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense, the talismans quickly flew towards the cultivator surnamed Li. The cultivator surnamed Li's myriad sword technique had already formed 40 to 50 sword phantoms. Seeing the talismans fly over, he didn't dare to delay, immediately throwing out all of his sword phantoms. Wang Daoyuan immediately activated all of his talismans, then dodged backwards. The cultivator surnamed Li wasn't stupid, his sword split into 10 odd sword phantoms, wrapping around his body. This was a sword cultivator's defensive spell. The spell released by the talismans clashed with the sword chi, causing a loud explosion. The shockwave spread everywhere. Wang Daoyuan dodged ahead of time, staying a bit further away, and also having 6.5 layers of earth armor talismans to protect himself. The shockwave of the explosion broke through 3 layers of earth armor talismans, but didn't hurt him, only blowing him a few feet away. The cultivator surnamed Li's defensive spell wasn't weak, able to block the power of the explosion. His defensive spell was broken by the shockwave, but he also suffered quite a bit of internal injury. After the defensive formation withstood all of the shockwave, the defensive barrier was directly broken. The power of the shockwave was also completely exhausted. The shop didn't suffer much damage. If it wasn't for the protection of the defensive formation, the entire shop would have been destroyed, and the shockwave would have hit the surrounding shops as well. The soundproof formation was already broken. The sound of the explosion could be heard outside. Soon, a late Foundation establishment cultivator from the Netherworld sect and a half-demon cultivator of the same cultivation level arrived at the scene. The Netherworld sect cultivator asked, "What are you two doing? Why did you destroy the formation and disturb the surroundings?" Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "This is Dao Yuli here to spar with me. The two of us were too excited to fight and caused a bit of a ruckus. I hope Senior can forgive us." The half-demon cultivator sneered, "Seeing that you didn't harm anyone else, I won't pursue the matter. Brat from the Beiyuan sword sect, don't be too presumptuous. You haven't reached the level where you can cover the sky with one hand. This shop's formation was destroyed. You'll have to pay for it with spirit stones. If you dare to cause trouble again, you'll be severely punished." The two of them repeatedly said they didn't dare. Chapter 216. The Foundation establishment cultivator from the underworld sect stared at the cultivator surnamed Li and warned coldly, "Kid from the Beiyuan sword sect, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're in the north of the mountain." With that, the two late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators left on their swords. Wang Daoyuan took out another 40 to 50 middle-grade second-stage talismans and smiled, "Dao Yuli, do you want to fix the formation and continue or stop here?" The cultivator surnamed Li waved his hand, "I'm not Daoyo's match, so I'll take my leave now. When my cultivation improves greatly, I'll come back and spar with Dao Yu Zhao." With that, he turned and left. Wang Daoyuan couldn't be bothered to deal with this kid. If they were in the wilderness, he wouldn't have to waste so much effort. 2 Earth Divine Thunders would have been enough. Why would he waste his breath on him? After the cultivator surnamed Li left, Wang Daoyuan put away the broken soundproof formation disc. As for the defensive formation of the shop, he'd better wait for the people from the Beiyuan sword sect to fix it. It was already shocking enough to reveal that he could refine pills and possibly refine talismans. He couldn't reveal that he was proficient in formations as well. The fight with the cultivator surnamed Li caused a huge commotion and made the shop famous. Business improved a lot in the next few days. A cauldron of pills was sold out in 2 or 3 days. 3 days later, the Beiyuan sword sect sent someone over again. This time, it was the young man from the Li family who welcomed Shi Xinghua at the Beiyuan Inn. Behind him was a middle-aged cultivator at the 4th level of Foundation establishment. This person was much more eloquent than the previous one. He cupped his hands towards Wang Daoyuan, "I'm Li Jianfeng." "Greetings, Dao Yu Huang." Li Jianfeng was the eldest son of the Beiyuan sword sect master. It was said that he was extremely talented and reached the Foundation establishment stage before he was 40. He was now in his 50s, about the same age as Wang Daoyuan. Although his face was kind, it could not hide the sharp aura around him. This person's attainment in the path of sword cultivation was far greater than the previous cultivator from the Li family. Since the other party was polite, Wang Daoyuan naturally treated him with courtesy. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "So it is the young sect master of the Beiyuan sword sect who has graced us with his presence. Please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier." Li Jianfeng smiled and said, "I wouldn't dare. Earlier, my younger brother was rude and offended Dao Yu. I hope Dao Yu won't blame him. Today, I'm here to help Dao Yu repair the formation." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "It's just a small matter, there's no need for young sect master to grace us with your presence. Please come in and have a seat." Li Jianfeng gave the array formation master a look, and the array formation master began to inspect the damage of the store's defensive array formation. In Wang Daoyuan's eyes, the Li family really did not have the slightest bit of respect for their own sect's array formation master. If he had agreed to join the Beiyuan sword sect, he would have received the same treatment. He led Li Jianfeng into his cave residence and invited Li Jianfeng to sit down. After Li Jianfeng sat down, he said apologetically, "My younger brother has always been rash and has offended Dao Yu. Please forgive him. I'm here to sincerely invite Dao Yu to join the Beiyuan sword sect. I hope that Dao Yu won't decline." Wang Daoyuan sighed and said, "When your younger brother came earlier, I also made it very clear. I'm used to being undisciplined and don't like restrictions. Your sect can't give me what I need the most. What your sect can give is nothing more than spirit stones. Does Dao Yu think that I lack spirit stones?" Li Jianfeng was silent for a moment and said, "When Dao Yu was teaching my younger brother a lesson earlier, he took out more than 100 middle grade grade 2 talismans. Ordinary cultivators, even if they were wealthy, would not carry so many talismans with them. Could it be that Dao Yu is also a talisman master?" Wang Daoyuan knew that he could not hide it and said frankly, "I won't hide it from Dao Yu. I'm indeed a middle grade grade 2 talisman master." Li Jianfeng was a little excited. He stood up and bowed. In the northern part of the mountain, humans and demons live together. The Netherworld sect colludes with the demons to suppress human cultivators. The Beiyuan sword sect wants to strengthen the human race, but they are not strong enough. I respectfully invite you to join the Beiyuan sword sect and strengthen the human race together." Wang Daoyuan sneered in his heart. "You really think that I'm a rookie who has never seen the world? You're all 1,000-year-old foxes, why are you acting with me? However, what happened to sword cultivators being straightforward? What kind of weirdos are the sword cultivators of the Beiyuan sword sect? Not only do they open brothels, but they also learn to use racial justice to kidnap people?" Although he despised Li Jianfeng in his heart, he still pretended to be touched and said, "I admire the Beiyuan sword sect's heart to strengthen the human race. However, what I need is only the yin-yang purple jade. The other things are just fleeting clouds to me. I really don't want to be tied down by the sect, so please forgive me, Dao Yu. However, since the young sect master has come personally, I can't not express anything. From now on, the pills in my shop will be sold to the Beiyuan sword sect at 80% price. In addition, I can also refine pills for your sect at a low price. What do you think, Dao Yu?" Li Jianfeng thought for a long time before sighing and saying, "It's a pity that I can't work with you. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble you to refine pills for my Beiyuan sword sect. My Beiyuan sword sect can't let you suffer a loss. Every time you refine a cauldron of pills, we will pay Dao Yu 50 spirit stones. As long as there are more than 4 pills in a cauldron, we will buy them according to the market price. In addition, since you are also proficient in talismans, I hope you can sell some talismans to us. The talisman paper and ink will be provided by us. We will pay you 30 spirit stones for each middle grade level 2 talisman. What do you think, sir?" This treatment was not bad. With Wang Daoyuan's skills, he could refine middle grade level 2 pills 6 times a day at most. Even if the success rate was only 40%, he could still earn more than 200 spirit stones a day. It was easy to earn tens of thousands of spirit stones a year. This was also the reason why his spiritual sense was high. Ordinary second-grade alchemists could only refine 3 cauldrons a day. If he refined more, his spiritual sense would be exhausted and it would seriously affect the success rate. Of course, most alchemists couldn't refine pills every day because they didn't have enough spirit herbs. Wang Daoyuan replied, "This treatment is a bit too generous. I naturally have no objections." Afterwards, the two of them carefully discussed the details of their cooperation. In the end, they reached an agreement. Wang Daoyuan would refine a cauldron of rejuvenation pills and a cauldron of condensing pills for the Guiyuan sword sect every day. In addition, he would provide 3 middle-grade level 2 talismans to the Guiyuan sword sect every day. The price would be according to the previously agreed-upon price. The array master that Li Jianfeng brought over also quickly finished repairing the shop's defensive array. The two of them bid farewell and left. Wang Daoyuan checked the defensive array to see if this array master had left any backup plans, such as surveillance, eavesdropping, or the like. Through his method of inscribing array patterns, Wang Daoyuan confirmed that this array master should have just entered the 2nd grade and his technique was rusty. However, he didn't leave any backup plans. Moreover, leaving a backup plan on the shop's defensive array was too easy to be discovered. The defensive array of each shop in the market was related to the defensive array of the entire market. Leaving a backup plan on the shop's defensive array might affect the operation of the entire defensive array and be easily discovered by the controller of the defensive array. At that time, when the upper echelons of the market investigated, the person who left a backup plan would definitely have to bear the consequences. On the surface, Wang Daoyuan was only a middle-grade level 2 alchemist, but the Guiyuan sword sect sent the young sect master to personally recruit him. It could be seen how great the demand for alchemists was on the Guiyuan sword sect side. Since the Guiyuan sword sect was in the pill business, they definitely had their own alchemists. Under such circumstances, they could still provide him with the spirit herbs needed for 2 cauldrons of pills a day. And the Guiyuan sword sect's businesses on the surface couldn't provide so many spirit herbs. Even the Green Willow region couldn't provide a stable supply of spirit herbs for the Guiyuan sword sect. After all, there was no place to grow spirit herbs in the Green Willow region. Relying on rogue cultivators to gather spirit herbs was simply a matter of luck. It could be seen that the Guiyuan sword sect definitely had a hidden source of spirit herbs. Chapter 217. Judging from the fact that the main ingredient needed for the core condensing pill needed 200 years to mature, this secret source of spirit herbs had been preparing for 200 years. Moreover, there was definitely a lot of spirit fields. The spirit herbs produced by the Wang family's dozens of mu of spirit fields weren't even enough for the family's pill refiners. The Guiyuan sword sect made him refine 2 cauldrons of pills a day. Coupled with their own pill refiners, their daily workload wouldn't be less than his. Even though the Guiyuan sword sect only had 1 rank 2 pill refiner like him, refining 2 cauldrons of rank 2 pills a day. They had to ensure that the 2 pill refiners were able to refine pills like this and that there was an endless supply of spirit herbs. Since they were in a hurry to recruit pill refiners, it meant that there was a lot of spirit herbs produced. The existing pill refiners couldn't use them all and it might cause a backlog of spirit herbs. From the looks of it, the Guiyuan sword sect's source of spirit herbs had at least 1,000 mu of rank 2 spirit fields. In addition, they had to consider rank 1 spirit herbs. As long as there were rank 2 spirit fields, there would definitely be more rank 1 spirit fields in the surrounding area. Conservatively speaking, this source of spirit herbs had at least 2,000 mu of rank 1 spirit fields. The Zhao royal family had been overthrown for 300 years, but they still had such a foundation. This family was truly rich. After that, the Guiyuan sword sect would send someone to deliver the spirit herbs, talisman paper, and spirit ink needed for the month at the beginning of every month. At the end of the month, they would send someone to deliver the reward and take away the pills and talismans. With Wang Daoyuan's true skill, he could refine 7 to 8 pills of mid and low grade grade 2 pills in 1 cauldron. His success rate for mid-grade grade 2 talismans was also above 60%. However, in order to not expose his skill and not let the Beiyuan sword sect obtain too many resources, he only handed over the pills and talismans according to the success rate of 40% each time. The other pills were sold in the shop and the talismans were kept for self-defense. 3 months later, Fu Qing came to Wang Daoyuan's shop again with an early-stage foundation establishment wandering cultivator. Before Wang Daoyuan could speak, Fu Qing introduced, "Senior Huang, I'd like to introduce you to a business deal. This Senior Zhou wants to sell a few spirit herbs. I thought that since Senior Huang has opened a medicinal pill store, you should be able to purchase spiritual herbs, so I brought Senior Zhou here." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I am Wang Daoyuan. I wonder what kind of spirit medicine Dao Yu is selling." The cultivator surnamed Zhou took out 5 to 6 spirit medicines from his storage bag and placed them on the counter of the shop, asking, "Dao Yu Huang, how much can you sell these spirit medicines for?" These few stalks of spirit herbs were all dried goods, not a single one was alive. These spiritual herbs were all of the same type, known as the golden thread grass. The leaves were like threads, golden in color. The golden silk grass was a level 2 upper grade spirit medicine, and it was one of the supplementary ingredients to concoct the level 3 meridian shielding pill. When Wang Daoyuan was building his foundation, if he didn't have the protection of the meridian shielding pill and took 2 foundation establishment pills at the same time, it was very likely that his meridians would be damaged. Taking the meridian shielding pill when breaking through a realm or using a powerful spell could prevent the damage to the meridians. The meridian shielding pill was a level 3 lower grade spirit medicine. It was one of the easiest level 3 spirit medicine to concoct. It was very suitable for a level 2 upper grade pill master like Wang Daoyuan to try concocting a level 3 spirit medicine. However, this meridian shielding pill's spirit medicine was relatively rare. Wang Daoyuan had never seen it before. Now that he came across a few stalks, he naturally couldn't let them go. He carefully examined the stalks of golden thread grass. Unfortunately, there were no seeds left, otherwise he could plant them in the space of the spirit bead. Feeling a bit disappointed, he offered a price, 100 spirit stones for 1 stalk, 7 stalks of golden thread grass for 700 spirit stones. "What do you think, Dao Yu?" The cultivator surnamed Zhou was very satisfied with this price, saying, "Dao Yu Huang, this price is quite reasonable, let's go with this price." Wang Daoyuan took out 700 low-grade spirit stones and gave them to the cultivator surnamed Zhou, putting away the golden thread grass. The cultivator surnamed Zhou bought a few soul-condensing pills and rejuvenation pills. Wang Daoyuan gave him a 10% discount. After taking the pills, the cultivator surnamed Zhou didn't leave, instead his eyes swept over the surroundings. Wang Daoyuan took out 10 spirit stones and gave them to Fu Qing, saying, "I want to buy a detailed map of the North Mountain, help me ask around, as long as you can find it, you won't be short of benefits. Remember, the bigger the map area, the more detailed the better." Fu Qing took the spirit stones and eagerly ran out. Wang Daoyuan closed the shop door, opened the defensive formation and asked, "Dao Yu Zhou, if you have anything to say, just say it." The cultivator surnamed Zhou took out a tree branch that was 10 feet long and as thick as an arm from his storage bag. Although the branch was already dried up, the strong spirit energy fluctuation on it showed that it was a branch of a level 2 upper grade spirit wood. Wang Daoyuan picked up the branch, only to feel that it was heavy in his hand. The weight of this tree trunk wasn't light. The wood part of this branch wasn't anything special, although it was very heavy, its strength wasn't high, so it couldn't be considered a good refining material. However, the bark was very extraordinary, blood red in color and extremely tough. It could be used to make level 2 upper grade talisman papers. This was only a branch. If it was the bark of the trunk, it could be used to make level 3 lower grade talisman papers. This branch might have been cut off from the blood dragon wood, a 3rd grade spirit wood. If it was really blood dragon wood, then its value would be very high. The bark of blood dragon wood could be used to make level 3 talisman papers, and the branch could be used to make level 3 spirit charcoal. The only pity was that this blood dragon wood had already withered. If it was still alive, it could still be planted near the life spirit fire in the spirit pearl space. He was still carefully observing the branch when the cultivator surnamed Zhou became a bit anxious and asked, "Dao Yu Huang, how much is this branch worth?" Wang Daoyuan smiled. Dao Yu Zhou should also know what this branch is, or else he wouldn't have taken it out in the end. If Dao Yu Huang chopped the trunk, it should be worth 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones, but this branch isn't even worth 100 spirit stones. If it was a live branch, it wouldn't be a big deal to sell it to a clan or sect for 10,000 spirit stones. The cultivator surnamed Zhou smiled. Dao Yu Huang is really knowledgeable. This branch of blood dragon wood isn't worth much, but the whole blood dragon wood is very valuable. Wang Daoyuan was a bit puzzled and asked, "Since Dao Yu Zhou knows what this is, then why did you bring it to me to sell?" The cultivator surnamed Zhou replied, "When I was picking herbs in Mount Huiyan, I happened to find a small valley. That valley seemed to be the medicine garden of a senior expert. There were some traces of the formation core, but the formation had been completely destroyed, so it should have been there a long time ago. The golden silk grass and this blood dragonwood branch were all obtained from there. After I entered the small valley, I first found the golden silk grass at the edge of the valley. As I continued to go deeper, I found a blood dragon wood. I originally wanted to cut off all the branches and leaves of the blood dragon wood, then dig up the trunk by the roots. I didn't expect that the formation in the valley had been destroyed, and the entire valley had been occupied by demonic beasts. On top of that blood dragon wood, there was a second-rank mid-grade python. The blood dragon wood had many branches and leaves, so I didn't see the python hiding inside. When I cut off the branch, I alarmed the python and was ambushed by it, almost dying in that valley. I hid in a secluded place and recuperated for a few months. After my injuries were healed, I returned to Mount Huiyan Market. This time, I came to find Dao Yu to inquire about him carefully. Dao Yu Huang is also a loose cultivator and doesn't have any background here. Previously, he was bullied by the Guiyuan sword sect and had no choice but to agree to refine pills for them. However, Dao Yu Huang is not weak and can defeat sword cultivators of the same level from the Guiyuan sword sect. I, Zhou Xian, would like to invite Dao Yu Huang to explore that valley together. You and I will split everything we find. What does Dao Yu Huang think? Chapter 218. Wang Daoyuan pondered for a moment and replied, "I'm naturally very happy to earn some extra money. However, the danger isn't small either. With the two of us, even if we can win against a mid-grade rank 2 demon beast, the commotion won't be small either. There are mid-grade rank 2 demon beasts near the edge of the valley, so it's not strange for there to be high-grade rank 2 demon beasts inside. If we alarm them, I'm afraid we won't be able to keep our lives." Zhou Xian smiled and said, "I won't hide it from Dao Yu. I've cultivated a powerful spell that can quickly kill demon beasts. However, the casting speed is relatively slow. I'm the only one dealing with the demon beast, so I don't have a chance to use it. As long as Dao Yu can delay the giant python for 20 breaths of time, I can kill it in one blow. How about we leave after taking the blood dragon wood?" Wang Daoyuan pondered for a long time and nodded. "Then we'll do as Dao Yu said. Delaying the giant python for 20 breaths of time shouldn't be a problem. When does Dao Yu plan to go?" Zhou Xian pondered for a moment and said, "I still need to prepare some things. How about we leave in half a month?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Naturally, no problem. I can go at any time. After half a month, I'll continue to wait here for Dao Yu." The two exchanged some pleasantries and Zhou Xian bid farewell and left. The next day, Fu Qing brought an old late-stage qi condensation cultivator to Huang clan's medicinal shop. Seeing Wang Daoyuan, Fu Qing bowed and said, "Senior Huang, this is Dao Yu Jiang. He has an ancestral map for sale. Unfortunately, because the map is too big, he hasn't been able to sell it. He's also not willing to divide the map and sell it piece by piece. You said that the bigger and more detailed the map, the better, so I brought him here." Wang Daoyuan was interested. What kind of map could be so big that it couldn't be sold? He asked with interest, "How big is the map that it can't be sold? Take it out and let me see." As long as it's good, I'll definitely buy it. The cultivator surnamed Jiang bowed and said, Senior Huang, this shop is too small. I'm afraid the map won't fit. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, then let's go to the backyard. The backyard has an area of more than 2 acres. It should be enough, right? The cultivator surnamed Jiang nodded repeatedly and said, it's enough, it's enough. The 3 of them arrived at the backyard, and the cultivator surnamed Jiang took out a pile of things from his storage bag. The pile seemed to be made of some kind of animal skin. It was about 1 zhang in length and width, and 5 to 6 feet in height. With Fu Cheng's help, the cultivator surnamed Jiang spread out the pile of animal skins, covering nearly half an acre of land. It was a complete piece of animal skin with drawings and annotations all over it. With Wang Daoyuan's divine sense, he could only memorize a square foot of content after observing for 20 to 30 breaths of time. Wang Daoyuan exclaimed in admiration, Daoyu Jiang, this map of yours is really good. I really don't know what kind of person could make such a detailed map. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was interested in the map, the cultivator surnamed Jiang was overjoyed. He said, when I was young, I heard from my elders that my family's ancestors were once a great power. This map was made by my family's ancestors. I don't know how many generations they spent to make it. Unfortunately, our family declined more than 1,000 years ago. Until now, there hasn't been a foundation establishment cultivator in our family for several generations. The things left behind by our ancestors that can be sold have already been exchanged for spirit stones. Only this map remains unsold. Daoyu Jiang is willing to buy a part of it, but I'm not willing to damage my family's heirloom, so I haven't been able to sell it. If Senior is willing, I only hope that Senior can preserve this map in its entirety. That way, I'll be able to face my ancestors. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, no problem. I'm very satisfied with this map. I'll definitely preserve it in its entirety. How many spirit stones are you selling this map for? Name a price. With Fu Qing here, the cultivator surnamed Jiang didn't dare to name a price. He was afraid that the fact that he had a large number of spirit stones on him would be leaked. Wang Daoyuan handed Fu Qing 20 spirit stones and said, you did well this time. These 20 spirit stones are your reward. Fu Qing took the spirit stones and left with 1,000 thanks. Only now did the cultivator surnamed Jiang dare to name a price. I want to sell this map for 2,000 spirit stones. If Senior thinks the price is too high, we can still discuss it. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, for such a good map, 2,000 spirit stones is more than worth it. Since your family's ancestors worked hard for it, 2,000 spirit stones it is. After he said that, Wang Daoyuan took out 20 mid-grade spirit stones and gave them to the cultivator surnamed Jiang. As the cultivator surnamed Jiang received the spirit stones, his eyes became moist. He carefully folded the map and gave it to Wang Daoyuan. Then, he respectfully bid farewell and left. Wang Daoyuan stored the map in the space of the spirit bead. This map weighed around 500 to 600 pounds and was made with animal skins. Ordinary storage bags wouldn't be able to hold it. It was also very inconvenient to carry such a large map with him when he went out. It was also very strenuous to take out the map and look at it. Moreover, there was too much information on this map and it wasn't suitable to be recorded in jade slips or animal skins. Under normal circumstances, a jade slip or an animal skin could only record around 10,000 words. There were at least hundreds of thousands of words on this map, and there were also pictures. It would take nearly 100 jade slips to record it. Who would spend so much effort for such a map? This map was indeed not suitable for ordinary people. However, it was very suitable for Wang Daoyuan. With the space of the spirit bead and his clone, if he wanted to check the map, he could just let his clone do it. Coupled with the 40 times faster flow of time in the space, he didn't have to worry about checking slowly. As soon as the map was stored in the space of the spirit bead, Wang Daoyuan ordered his clone, Wu Yi, to check it. At first glance, he knew why the map was so large. The map covered a large area, not only covering half of the Wild Goose Mountain range, but also the entire northern mountain region, as well as many other regions north of the Thousand River. The entire Qingli County was included in the map. The map spanned 100,000 li from north to south and 50,000 li from east to west. The map marked the location of every second-grade spirit vein and above, as well as the precious items in each area. In addition, it also recorded the history of the names of some areas. The only shortcoming was that the map only had a brief description of the Sky-Chopping Mountain Range. There was no mention of the eastern region of the Sky-Chopping Mountain Range. It seems the Jiang clan's ancestral power isn't small. The things recorded on the map are nothing to a great power, not worth investigating. With so much information on the map, the Jiang clan's ancestral intelligence network must have covered these regions. The brief description of the Sky-Chopping Mountain Range meant the Jiang clan didn't extend their reach into the Sky-Chopping Mountain Range. Wu Yi spent a lot of effort and finally found a place on the map called Hell Valley. 5,000 years ago, there was a great flood that flattened the Hell Valley. Hell Valley's name was never mentioned again. Hell Valley's location was 20,000 li west of the Wild Goose Gathering Market, and 10,000 li north of the Underworld sect. There was a river that flowed through this place. The river's water contained dense Yin energy, hence the name Profound Yin River. Now, Profound Yin River was a gathering place for cultivators who played with corpses. Now that he knew the target's location, he could go straight to Profound Yin River after getting the dragon blood wood. The days of being watched by the Origin Sword sect in the market had finally come to an end. Chapter 219. The appointed day arrived in the blink of an eye. Zhou Xian arrived at Huang's elixir shop. Wang Daoyuan led him into the shop and asked, "Zhou Daoyu, are you ready?" Zhou Xian smiled and said, "Everything is ready. We can set off at any time." Wang Daoyuan changed into the attire of a loose cultivator and left the shop with Zhou Xian. The small valley that Zhou Xian found was more than 6,000 li west of Guiyan Market. Guiyuan Sword Sect had people watching the shop. In order to avoid the eyes of Guiyuan Sword Sect, they decided to go south and leave Guiyan Market. They first went to the south of the mountain, then went west. After bypassing Guiyuan Sword Sect, they went over Huiyan Mountain and returned to the north of the mountain. The people of Guiyuan Sword Sect did not dare to go to the south of the mountain casually. This route could shake off Guiyuan Sword Sect's pursuit. Moreover, they could avoid the area occupied by the Red-Beard bandits. Both of them were dressed in black and wore veils and bamboo hats. After blending into the crowd of people in the market, it was difficult to find them. After leaving the market, they immediately flew south on their swords. Soon, they arrived at Jinyan City. In order to avoid being followed, they directly entered Jinyan City. Not long after, they left the city through the south gate and went west along the south foot of Huiyan Mountain. The journey was very smooth. After traveling 6,000 li, they went north and crossed Huiyan Mountain. This place was still part of Huiyan Mountain's remnant vein. It was still about 4,000 li away from the main vein. Outside of the main vein, there were generally no third-rank monsters. Most second-rank monsters were not a big threat to foundation-building cultivators. They no longer hid their tracks and flew north on their swords. When flying over the territories of monsters, the monsters were probably used to it. As long as they did not fly too low and did not release pressure to provoke them, they did not care. Zhou Xian led the way in front. When they were only a few dozen li away from the north of the mountain, they arrived at a small valley that was 2 to 3 li long and 7 to 8 zhang wide. Zhou Xian stopped here. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Daoyu Zhou, there is no spirit vein here. How can there be blood dragon wood?" Zhou Xian smiled and said, "If that valley was so easy to find, who knows how many years have passed? Would we have a chance to get the good things inside?" After saying that, he controlled his flying sword and landed on the ground. Wang Daoyuan followed closely behind and landed on the ground. He saw Zhou Xian walk towards the western cliff in the middle of the small valley. There did not seem to be anything out of the ordinary here. As they got closer, Wang Daoyuan felt that the concentration of spiritual qi here had increased. He used his divine sense to explore the rock wall, only to discover that there was a tiny crack in the rock wall, from which spiritual power was constantly pouring out. His divine sense probed behind the crack, only to discover that there was a cave behind it. There was also a broken array formation in the cave. With his proficiency in formations, it was easy for him to see that this was a formation that blocked the flow of spirit qi. It was used to prevent the spirit qi from flowing out of the cave. If it were not for the fact that the formation was somewhat damaged, causing the spiritual qi to leak out, Zhou Xian would not have discovered this valley. Zhou Xian walked to the front of the rock wall and placed his hand on a protruding rock beside the crack. He used all his strength to twist it. The rocks beside the crack slowly opened, revealing the cave behind it. The cave was about 10 feet high and 3 feet wide. It was quite spacious. Zhou Xian smiled and said, "The place where I found the golden silk grass and the blood dragon wood was behind this cave." After saying that, he walked into the cave first. Wang Daoyuan stuck 2 middle-grade second-tier earth armor talismans on his body and followed behind, walking in. After entering the cave, Zhou Xian pressed on a rock inside the cave, and the rock at the entrance of the cave slowly closed. They walked along the inside of the cave. After walking for about 1 mile, their eyes suddenly opened up. This was a large underground cave. The inside of the cave was covered with dense vegetation. One could not see the end of it at a glance. On the surrounding rock walls, there were fist-sized luminous pearls. There were small holes above the cave, and light penetrated through each small hole. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to explore a small hole, only to discover that there was a magic mirror in the cave. The grade was not high, only a low-grade first stage. This magic mirror could adjust its angle according to the position of the sun and the moon, reflecting the sunlight and moonlight into the cave. Although the grade of this magic mirror was low, it was not simple. With these magic mirrors and luminous pearls, this underground cave was not dark at all. There was also a high-grade second-stage spirit vein in the cave. Wang Daoyuan followed Zhou Xian out of the cave and into the cave. After careful observation, he discovered that there were dense array patterns on the surrounding rock walls. These array patterns should be a middle-grade second-stage array. The array patterns were relatively rough and had lost their function. This cave's owner's attainments in array formations had barely reached the mid-grade of the second level. This array should be able to block the leakage of spiritual energy, as well as have a defensive function. This cave was a bit like a medicine garden. The python in the cave should have crawled in through the small hole above the cave after the array had lost its effect. He quickly discovered a few stalks of golden silk grass on the ground. He immediately pulled them out and stored them in the spirit pearl space. The surrounding vegetation was mostly of first stage and did not have much value. Wang Daoyuan followed Zhou Xian's footsteps and carefully walked through the dense vegetation. They did not dare to extend their divine senses too far to avoid disturbing the second-stage demonic beast and causing a big commotion. The two of them only dared to use their divine senses to explore an area of about 200 feet. After going more than 1,000 feet deep, Wang Daoyuan saw a blood-red tree 20 feet away through the gaps in the vegetation. This blood dragon tree was more than 200 feet tall and had a thick trunk that required 2 people to wrap their arms around. Wang Daoyuan did not see where the python was. In order to avoid being detected by the middle-grade second-stage python, the two of them used the breath-concealing technique to restrain their aura and suppress their spiritual energy fluctuations. Zhou Xian did not dare to speak again. He transmitted his voice, "Huang Daoyu, the python is hiding on the blood dragon tree. You go and lure it out. I will prepare a spell here. As long as you lure that beast away from the blood dragon tree, you will be able to hold on for 20 breaths of time to prevent my spell from damaging the tree. Take down the python and dig out the blood dragon tree. Then, we will leave this place." Wang Daoyuan also replied, "No problem." After saying that, he took out the inky gold sword from the space in the spiritual pearl and slowly moved forward. After more than 50 breaths of time, Wang Daoyuan moved to the vicinity of the blood dragon tree. He scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and did not find any demonic beasts. It seemed that the python's hiding ability was not weak. He did not let down his guard. Instead, he paid more attention to the python. He raised the inky gold sword and cut off a branch as thick as an arm from the blood dragon tree. He stored it in the spiritual pearl and handed it over to his doppelganger. His doppelganger cut off a small branch as thick as a finger and inserted it near the spiritual fire of life. Although the blood dragon tree could not be grown by cutting, with the vigorous vitality provided by the spiritual fire of life, there might be hope. Wang Daoyuan's divine sense was constantly monitoring the surrounding area of 300 feet. He did not want to be killed by the python in one strike. Suddenly, a blood-red python's head jumped out from the branches. It opened its bloody mouth and bit toward him. He waved the inky gold sword in his hand and chopped the side of the python's head. He also activated the swift art under his feet. Borrowing the force of the collision between the long sword and the python's head, he quickly flew to the right and narrowly avoided the python's attack. The inky gold sword was very sharp. The sword left a half-foot-long wound on the python's head. At this time, Wang Daoyuan felt that there was a violent fluctuation of spiritual power on Zhou Xian's side. He should be preparing a magic spell. Seeing that its attack had missed and that its head had been cut by the sword, the python would not give up. It came down from the blood dragon tree and crawled toward Wang Daoyuan. The python's body was blood-red. On both sides of its back, there were clusters of obvious light-colored cloud patterns. Wang Daoyuan knew this python. It was called the blood-red cloud-patterned python. The highest level it could cultivate to was the second rank upper grade. Chapter 220. The python was only 2 to 3 meters long and as thick as an adult's waist. Other demonic beasts of the first rank were at least 4 to 5 meters long. This python was quite small. Wang Daoyuan could not remember the blood cloud python's innate ability. It was probably to suck blood to strengthen its body. This kind of innate ability did not have much lethality, and it was only a second-rank demonic beast. If he did not want to expose his strength, he would have finished it off in a few moves. He could not use his family's magic, super powerful magic, or the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip. It would be a waste to use talismans. He could only use the inky gold sword to fight against the python. The blood cloud python's body was very strong. The inky gold sword was so sharp, but the wound was not even half an inch deep. The wound completely enraged it. It chased after Wang Daoyuan closely. It would not give up until it killed Wang Daoyuan. There were snake-type demonic beasts that were very fast, but most of the python-type demonic beasts were not known for their speed. Wang Daoyuan used the swift art with all his strength. The blood cloud python could not catch up with him at all. His goal was to stall the python, so he would not leave it too far behind. When the python pounced forward, he sped up and widened the distance between them. When the distance between them increased, he slowed down and maintained a distance of more than 30 meters from the python. When the python wanted to give up, he turned around and threw a few spells like the golden saber technique to enrage it. The blood cloud python was flustered and exasperated. It used all its strength and jumped more than 60 meters away. This gave Wang Daoyuan a fright, and he almost used cloud mist escape. He calmed down and used the earth escape technique to escape into the ground. Anyway, he only needed to stall for 20 seconds. That time was almost up. The python was already more than 300 meters away from the blood dragon wood. He did not have to worry about the wood being hit. Just as it was about to swallow the tiny human, he suddenly disappeared. At this time, Wang Daoyuan was more than 60 meters underground. At this depth, Foundation establishment cultivators with strong divine senses could still detect him with their divine senses. Most of the demonic beasts' divine senses were far inferior to human cultivators of the same level, so they were unable to detect them. The python didn't sense Wang Daoyuan's aura anywhere else, so it angrily whipped the place where Wang Daoyuan disappeared with its tail. The soil and stones on the ground were sent flying in all directions, and a pit more than 10 feet deep was created on the ground. After Wang Daoyuan entered the ground, he immediately headed towards Zhou Xian. One must not have the intention to harm others, but one must always be on guard against others. He did not return to the ground immediately. Instead, he used his spiritual perception to observe Zhou Xian and the red blood cloud-striped python. This was to prevent Zhou Xian from casting the spell that he had prepared for 20 breaths of time on him. Fortunately, Zhou Xian did not attack him. Instead, he directed the spell at the blood cloud-striped python. A ball of red and yellow spiritual energy was condensed in his hands. Then, he shot the ball of spiritual energy into the air. Flaming stones flew out of the spiritual power ball and hit the red cloud python under the control of his divine sense. The flaming stones flew at an extremely fast speed. They were not inferior to the earth divine thunder. The red blood cloud-striped python was known for its physical strength. In terms of speed, it was not strong. It could not dodge such a fast attack. The first flaming rock hit the blood-red cloud-striped python directly. Wang Daoyuan's spiritual perception had been paying attention to the man and the python. Naturally, he also detected the flaming stones. The power of this one stone was comparable to 3 of his earth divine thunders. Of course, if Zhou Xian were to face him head-on, he would not have the chance to finish accumulating power. He would be blasted into pieces by the earth divine thunder. The crimson cloud python's body was ridiculously strong. A flaming flying stone hit its waist. Although it was hit by the flaming stones, it did not suffer any fatal injuries. This was only the first flaming stone. There were still 5 more. The next 5 flaming stones were all aimed at the python's head. The python's waist was severely injured. It could not dodge at all. The 5 flaming flying stones landed steadily on the python's head. This was equivalent to 15 earth divine thunders hitting the same place. This power was not something a rank 2 demonic beast could withstand. No matter how strong the red blood cloud-striped python's body was, it could not withstand this attack. The remaining power of the flaming stones disappeared along with the python's head. A snake could not do without a head. The python's head was blown up by the flaming stones. No matter how strong it was, it could not do anything. After struggling for a while, the python's body fell to the ground powerlessly. Zhou Xian's spiritual power ball was completely exhausted. He ate a spiritual recovery pill and sat down to recover his spiritual power. When Wang Daoyuan came out from the ground, Zhou Xian was shocked. He was worried that Wang Daoyuan would sneak attack him. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Dao Yuzhou, don't panic. I am not a person who will kill a donkey after it has outlived its usefulness. Don't worry. As long as Dao Yu does not attack me, I will not attack Dao Yu." Then, he picked up the black gold sword and walked towards the blood dragon wood. He was not sure if there were any demonic beasts lying in ambush near the blood dragon wood. Naturally, he would not walk over easily. When he was about 10 feet away from the blood dragon wood, he controlled the flying sword to float in the air. Black sword chi flew out from the black gold sword and condensed into flying sword phantoms. It was the innumerable sword art that he seized from Wu Yi. He controlled the sword chi to attack the blood dragon wood and cut off all the branches. He put all the branches into the spiritual pearl space. Then, he used the earth movement art to shake the earth and rocks around the roots of the blood dragon wood. When the earth and rocks were separated from the roots, he used the earth wall art to condense an earth and rock pillar to push the blood dragon wood out from the ground. He put the blood dragon wood into a spirit beast pouch. The blood dragon wood was heavy and exceeded the load limit of an ordinary storage pouch. Wang Daoyuan walked towards Zhou Xian and said, "To be honest, I know a cultivator from a clan. If I sell this blood dragon wood to him, I should be able to earn a lot of spirit stones. So, I'll give Dao Yu some spirit stones. How about you let me have this blood dragon wood?" Zhou Xian said, "Since Dao Yu has connections, there's no harm in letting Dao Yu have it." Wang Daoyuan took out 30 mid-grade spirit stones and said, I'll compensate Dao Yu with 3,000 spirit stones. What do you think of this? Zhou Xian was overjoyed. If he sold this blood dragon wood to the forces of Shanbei, he could sell it for 5,000 spirit stones at most. If the two of them divided it equally, he would not get 3,000 spirit stones. Now, Wang Daoyuan was giving him 3,000 spirit stones. Naturally, he had no objections. Wang Daoyuan handed him 30 mid-grade spirit stones, which he gladly accepted. The two of them stayed in the underground cave for an hour until Zhou Xian's spirit qi was almost recovered. Then, they walked out of the underground cave. During this time, no other demonic beasts came. Wang Daoyuan obtained the urgently needed blood dragon wood, and Zhou Xian obtained 30 mid-grade spirit stones. The two of them each got what they wanted. Zhou Xian led the way out of the cave and returned to the small valley outside. Just as he left the cave, a giant sword shadow that was 20 to 30 feet long fell from the sky. The giant sword shadow was also extremely fast. After a big battle, Zhou Xian's spirit qi had recovered, and his mind was at its most relaxed state. This sword came so fast that he could not react at all. He was directly cut in half by this sword. Wang Daoyuan was also frightened by this sword and retreated into the cave, not daring to show his head. Wang Daoyuan also recognized this move. It was the sky-cleaving sword, the inheritance of the Guiyuan sword sect. He could also use the sky-cleaving sword, but its power could not be compared to this sword. To be able to use such a powerful sky-cleaving sword, this person was definitely a sword cultivator, and his cultivation was much higher than his. He did not have full confidence in defeating this kind of opponent. Moreover, sword cultivators were much faster than ordinary cultivators of the same level. Even if they could win, it would be difficult to keep the opponent. Chapter 221. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to show his face. An old voice came from outside. Dao Yu Huang, my Guiyuan sword sect is sincerely inviting you to join us. We have no ill intentions. As long as you are willing to join the Guiyuan sword sect, I can guarantee your safety. As expected, it was someone from the Guiyuan sword sect. He wanted to continue to fish for information, so he naturally would not walk out obediently. Wang Daoyuan pretended to be in disbelief. Impossible. Zhou Daoyu and I took so many detours. How could you possibly keep up with us? The old voice laughed and said, how can you fool me with your little tricks? Outside the Huang's elixir shop, we have people keeping watch. Zhou Xian secretly discussed some things with you. Although I do not know the details, I can use Zhou Xian to lure you out of the Guiyan market. We investigated Zhou Xian and found out that he appeared in this area many times a few months ago. After the two of you left the Guiyan market, I waited for you in this area. Speaking of which, the two of you are really bold. You flew here on your swords so openly. It would be hard for me not to see you. Dao Yu, come out and join the Guiyuan sword sect. The sword sect will definitely not treat you unfairly. Wang Daoyuan continued, how do I know if you will kill me directly? Why don't you come in? I don't want to be killed by your sword like Zhou Daoyu. The old man promised. Dao Yu is a third-level foundation establishment cultivator at such a young age. In the future, he might be able to open his Violet Palace. He is also proficient in talismans and alchemy. His future is limitless. The Guiyuan sword sect has taken a liking to Dao Yu's talent and wants to take Dao Yu in. I am already so old, but I am only at the 6th level of foundation establishment. I am afraid that it will be difficult for me to advance any further. How can someone like me, who has exhausted all of my potential, be compared to Dao Yu? If I hurt Dao Yu, I am afraid that I will be severely punished when I return. If I kill Dao Yu, not only will I not be able to keep my life, I will also implicate my family. As for entering the cave, I really do not dare to do so. Dao Yu was proficient in the Tao of talismans and had many talismans in his possession. It's inconvenient to dodge in the cave. If I go in, I might not be a match for Dao Yu. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was both happy and worried. He was happy that this old man was only at the 6th level of foundation establishment, so he still had a chance to take him down. What he was worried about was that he was too cautious, so he didn't have a chance to make a move. If he took the initiative to attack, the possibility of instantly taking down a 6th level foundation establishment cultivator was not high. This old man's cultivation level was 3 levels higher than his, and he was also a sword cultivator. The speed of his sword manipulation was definitely not something he could compare to. If his attack failed, he would immediately flee, and he would no longer have a chance to capture him. If he exposed his trump card and let this old man escape, then he would suffer a great loss. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Since Dao Yu doesn't want to come in, then I'll go out through another exit. Goodbye." After he finished speaking, he used his spiritual power to pull Zhou Xian's corpse over and stored it in the spirit pearl space. After that, he walked into the depths of the cave. This made the old man outside anxious. He wasn't sure if there were any other exits in the cave. If one of them ran away, wouldn't it be a complete loss? If he lost his merit, he might even be punished when he returned. However, if he chased after a person covered in talismans and fought in a narrow space, it would be too dangerous. When he landed in front of the cave, he used his spiritual sense to investigate inside, but he didn't find Wang Daoyuan's figure. He was a little anxious. He didn't dare to let Wang Daoyuan escape like this. Helpless, he could only follow into the cave. However, he was very cautious. He constantly probed forward with his spiritual sense to prevent a sneak attack. Wang Daoyuan didn't want to sneak attack him in the cave. Instead, he wanted to lure him into the underground cave. If he defeated him in the underground cave, it would be very difficult for him to escape with his cloud mist escape. The cave was narrow, and he couldn't fly with his sword manipulation. Wang Daoyuan waited for the old man at the place where the blood dragon wood was. After the old man entered the underground cave, his face was full of joy when he saw the scenery in front of him. This was an excellent secret cultivation base. If he reported this to the sect master, he would get a lot of rewards. However, he didn't relax his vigilance. He expanded the range of his spiritual sense to the maximum and carefully searched for Wang Daoyuan's hiding place. Wang Daoyuan stood there waiting for him. He soon arrived in front of Wang Daoyuan. The old man smiled and said, "Dao Yu Huang, come back with me." Since this old man had followed him in, it would be difficult for him to leave. Wang Daoyuan didn't bother to talk nonsense with him. He directly took out the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip and lashed it out. The old man was prepared. He waved the long sword in his hand and a sword chi shot out, blocking the chi from the whip. Wang Daoyuan continued to wave the whip and hit out chi. The old man also quickly waved his sword and used the sword chi to cut all the chi. Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. This time, he had encountered a tough opponent. The speed of the old man's sword was not slower than his whip. Moreover, the old man looked at ease and seemed to be able to be faster. The old man smiled and said, "Dao Yu Huang, you're very capable. I thought you were only good at talismans, but I didn't expect your whip technique to be so powerful. If we fight at the same level, I'm really not your opponent. I haven't been able to make progress in my cultivation for many years, so I can only focus on improving my fighting ability. Dao Yu Huang is a genius, but you're still a little bit lacking if you want to beat me." Wang Daoyuan injected his spiritual power into the whip and wanted to use the 5 elements to defeat the enemy in one blow. The old man was also very experienced. His spiritual sense found that the spiritual power in his hand was fluctuating violently and knew that he was going to use his unique skill. The old man held his sword with both hands. He closed his eyes, held his breath, and concentrated. Violent spiritual power fluctuations appeared on his sword. Wang Daoyuan lashed out with his whip and the chi went straight for the old man. The old man suddenly opened his eyes and his eyes shone brightly. The spiritual power on his sword quickly exploded and a huge sword illusion appeared. He waved his sword and the huge sword illusion slashed down at Wang Daoyuan. The qi of the five elements collided with the huge sword. Wang Daoyuan quickly detonated the qi, wanting to break the huge sword. Unfortunately, the huge sword only dimmed a little after withstanding the power of the explosion. It continued to slash at Wang Daoyuan. It seemed that when the old man killed Zhou Xian, he was afraid that he would accidentally injure him and showed mercy. He only attacked with all his strength after he had displayed enough strength. The remaining power of the huge sword illusion was enough to kill him. It was too late to dodge with the swift art. Helpless, he could only use the cloud mist escape to barely dodge the sword. The huge sword slashed the ground and left a deep trench that was 30 feet long, 10 feet wide, and 3 feet deep. After half a breath, Wang Daoyuan's figure appeared 40 feet to the right of his original spot. Seeing the power of the sword, he still had lingering fear. This old man was so strong that his 5-dragon soul-chasing whip was useless against him. The old man saw that he was unharmed and let out a sigh of relief. This seems to be Marquis Yuchuan's cloud mist escape. Dao, you are from the Yuchuan Wang family? Wang Daoyuan smiled. I am Wang Daoyuan, an old servant of the Zhao family. I did not want to be enemies with the Guiyuan sword sect. Why are you forcing me? The old man cupped his hands. So you are the descendant of Marquis Yuchuan. It's just that the Wang family has already submitted to the Netherworld sect. As long as the Wang family can abandon the darkness and join the light, everything will be fine. Wang Daoyuan said disdainfully, the Guiyuan sword sect is just a clown. Compared to Green Willow Province's Sure family, this 10,000-year-old noble family, they are far inferior. I really don't know why that brat surnamed Zhao would choose to stay in the Guiyuan sword sect. Hearing his words, the old man had a look of astonishment. Wang Daoyuan said this to distract the old man. He took the opportunity to fire out 3 earth divine lightnings in a row. By the time the old man reacted, the earth divine lightnings were only around 100 feet away from him. At such a close distance, without a brilliant escape art, there was no way to dodge all of them. Chapter 222. The sword in the old man's hand shone brightly as he dodged to the side. His battle experience was too rich. If he kept dodging and casting defensive spells, he would only be hit by 1 earth divine thunder. Wang Daoyuan was not idle either. He predicted where the old man would land and continued to cast earth divine lightning. Just as the earth divine lightning was about to hit him, the image of a shield appeared on the sword in his hand. 2 earth divine thunders were dodged by him, but one of them hit the shield's shadow, producing a muffled thunder-like sound. The old man was pushed back several feet by the explosive force of the earth divine lightning. The earth divine lightning's spiritual energy spread in all directions, and the old man was not enveloped by the earth elemental spiritual energy. Just as the old man landed, 3 more earth divine lightning bolts arrived. 3 muffled sounds of thunder could be heard. One had to admit that his shield was not weak. It took 4 earth divine lightning bolts head-on and did not shatter. However, the earth elemental spiritual energy from the 3 earth divine lightning bolts carried the corrosive power of the dust-returning flame. Wang Daoyuan would not let go of this opportunity to beat the old man while he was surrounded by earth elemental spiritual energy. He cast 3 more earth divine lightning bolts. At this moment, a violent spiritual energy fluctuation appeared on the old man's body. Then, a gust of wind appeared out of nowhere and blew away the earth elemental spiritual energy around him. 3 more earth divine lightning bolts flew in front of the old man. He did not have time to dodge. With a cracking sound, the shadow shield was shattered by the earth divine thunder. The old man let out a muffled groan and was sent flying several feet away. When he landed, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Wang Daoyuan let out a sigh of relief. This old man could not take it anymore. He cast the earth divine lightning as fast as he could. His spiritual energy and divine sense were both under great pressure. The old man panted for a long time and said angrily, "This spiritual energy is corrosive. It is definitely not the earth divine lightning. I did not expect the Yuchuan Marquis to have such a despicable descendant." Wang Daoyuan said disdainfully, "Your Guiyuan sword sect is already in the flesh business, and you still have the face to call me despicable. The Guiyuan sword sect used its power to bully others and forced me to be your slave. Can you be considered as being open and above board?" The old man was so angry that he couldn't speak. He coughed a few times and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Wang Daoyuan thought that victory was in his grasp, but the old man's eyes suddenly lit up. He waved the sword in his hand, and in a breath's time, dozens of sword phantoms appeared out of thin air. The casting speed of the myriad sword art had already reached such a level. Dozens of long sword phantoms flew towards Wang Daoyuan. He immediately used smoke escape to dodge the long sword phantom's attacks. Then, he immediately used the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique to form the Golden Rock's shadow. However, the speed at which the Golden Rock's shadow was condensed was still too slow. Only after using the Cloud Mist Escape 3 times in a row and dodging the attacks of the long sword phantoms did he succeed in condensing the Golden Rock phantoms. Hundreds of feather blades were shot out, and all the sword phantoms were destroyed. The old man held the sword with both hands, and a determined look appeared on his face. In just 2 breaths' time, he had condensed a sky-cleaving sword that was more than 300 feet long. This time, the sky-cleaving sword didn't directly slash down. Instead, it swept towards Wang Daoyuan. The distance between the two of them was only 60 feet. This old man was a true sword cultivator. He had already mastered all the spells of the Guiyuan sword sect to the point of perfection. When he used them, he didn't adhere to any form and could do as he pleased. He had played a psychological attack, but he was still forced to this extent. This sword was sweeping towards him. The Cloud Mist Escape couldn't dodge it at all. He could only dodge to the side of the giant sword phantoms or behind the old man. However, the speed of the sky-cleaving sword was too fast. He couldn't dodge it even with the Cloud Mist Escape. Helpless, he could only take this sword head-on. He divided his attention into 2 tasks. He controlled the Golden Rock Phantoms to release all the feather blades towards the giant sword phantoms. Then, the Golden Rock Phantoms also pounced over. At the same time, he used the Cloud Mist Escape and rushed to the old man's side. Both the feather blades and the Golden Rock Phantoms collided with the giant sword. The giant sword phantoms weren't directly shattered. However, the giant sword phantoms also became very dim. They didn't even have 10% of their previous power. In addition, the giant sword phantoms also paused for a moment. This gave Wang Daoyuan a chance. He successfully escaped to the old man's side before the sky-cleaving sword arrived. At this moment, the distance between the two of them was less than 10 feet. The old man's attention was all on the sky-cleaving sword. He couldn't react at all when Wang Daoyuan suddenly rushed over. At this moment, the soul-chasing bell had already appeared beside Wang Daoyuan. A deep bell sound rang out. The giant sword phantoms dissipated, and the resolute expression on the old man's face slowly disappeared. Then, he closed his eyes and collapsed to the ground. Within 10 feet, even a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator's soul would be severely injured after being shaken by the soul-chasing bell. Moreover, this old man was only at the 6th level of the foundation establishment realm. Wang Daoyuan let out a long sigh of relief. The enemy this time was really too dangerous. He had used all of his powerful trump cards and even used a psychological attack to barely defeat him. During the battle, if there was even the slightest mistake, he might have lost his life. At this moment, the old man's soul was only severely injured. He wasn't dead yet. He used the soul-splitting blade and directly attacked the old man's sea of consciousness. The old man's soul was already severely injured. He was unable to resist the soul-splitting blade and was directly scattered. This place wasn't necessarily safe. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to use his soul-splitting blade here. He took out the soul-splitting blade from Qi Yun's clone. He didn't merge it with his main soul. Instead, he directly injected it into the old man's sea of consciousness. The soul-splitting blade's divine sense power helped the old man's scattered soul to reform it with the soul-splitting blade as the center. After doing all this, he put the old man into the spiritual pearl space. This old man was a true sword cultivator, especially his last attack, which displayed the fearlessness of a sword cultivator and the might of a sword that could break all techniques. It was a pity that he had entered the den of thieves like the Beiyuan sword sect. It was a waste of this person. Wang Daoyuan still admired this old man. Everyone who was fearless and firm in their beliefs was worthy of admiration. However, everyone had their own choices. Wang Daoyuan wouldn't give up the opportunity to spy on the secrets of the Beiyuan sword sect just because he admired him. These secrets didn't just include the inheritance of the Beiyuan sword sect. They could also be related to the survival of his clan. To him, his personal path and the safety of his family and clan were the most important things. For these, nothing else mattered. Wang Daoyuan released the soul-chasing bees to search the underground cave to see what was inside. He went to the entrance of the cave and repaired the array that isolated the spirit chi. Currently, only he knew the exact location of this underground cave. As long as he repaired the array, the spirit chi wouldn't leak out and the entrance would be well hidden. Unfortunately, the location of this underground cave wasn't very good. It was too far away from the clan and there wasn't much room for expansion. The clan's losses outweighed the gains by operating this place. No matter how good this underground cave was, it could only be used as a place to rest. Although there were various types of spirit plants here, it was a valuable asset to most cultivators. However, to Wang Daoyuan, it wasn't worth mentioning. This underground cave couldn't be compared to the space in the spirit pearl. Furthermore, he couldn't take it with him. He only wanted to search this place. However, he didn't need it and couldn't leave it for others. The people of the Beiyuan sword sect already knew that Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Xian would come to this area. However, the others didn't know the exact location of this underground cave. The old man had been refined into a clone. Although the soul lamp he left in the Beiyuan sword sect wouldn't extinguish, if he didn't return for a long time, it would still arouse the suspicions of the Beiyuan sword sect. If he didn't set it up properly, it wouldn't be difficult for the Beiyuan sword sect to find the cave when they sent people to search. The more resources these bastards had, the faster they could cultivate cannon fodder and the earlier they could act. This was extremely disadvantageous to the Wang clan. Not only was it difficult to destroy all the spirit plants here, it would also cause a huge commotion. Before they could destroy everything, they might be discovered by the Beiyuan sword sect. It was better to hide this place. Chapter 223. The soul-chasing bees quickly searched the entire underground cave and only found a few snake-type demonic beasts. They should have come in through the illumination holes. The entire underground cave was around 5 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. Apart from various spirit plants and a few pythons, there were no other demonic beasts. Wang Daoyuan originally thought that this was some senior expert's abode. He didn't expect that it was just a medicinal garden. Moreover, it was a medicinal garden of a rogue cultivator. If it was a medicinal garden of a faction, the surrounding formations wouldn't be so crude. However, the location of this medicinal garden was too good. It seemed to be built on the foundation of a natural underground cave. With just a few simple formations, the entire medicinal garden was hidden without a trace. If it wasn't for the fact that the person who carved the formations was too weak, causing the formations to fail, Zhou Xian probably wouldn't have discovered this medicinal garden. The isolation formation at the entrance of the cave was still functioning normally. There were only a few minor problems and it was very easy to repair. After repairing the formation at the entrance, he didn't have to worry about being discovered for the time being. The remaining pythons in the medicinal garden weren't of a high grade. If he went all out, none of them would be able to last more than 10 breaths of time. After cleaning up the demonic beasts, he began to search the underground medicinal garden for spirit plants. Although this medicinal garden was large and there were many types of spirit plants, the majority of them were spirit plants that weren't of a grade. The remaining spirit plants were mainly grade 1 and grade 2 spirit plants. He only found a dozen or so spirit plants that he needed. Among them were a few supplementary herbs for refining the Meridian Shield pill. The rest were spirit plants for refining the Violet Rhythm pill. The Violet Rhythm pill was a medicinal pill used by Zifu realm cultivators to increase their cultivation. It had the same effect as the spirit gathering pill and the spirit condensing pill. However, the main ingredient of the Violet Rhythm pill was extremely rare, causing the Violet Rhythm pill to be very precious. The most important ingredient of the Violet Rhythm pill was the Violet Dragon Pattern Ginseng. Only 1,000-year-old Violet Dragon Pattern Ginseng could be used to refine the Violet Rhythm pill. In addition, the other main ingredients and supplementary herbs were also very old. It was very difficult for most Zifu realm cultivators to obtain the Violet Rhythm pill. Wang Daoyuan could be considered to have run into great luck. In this underground medicinal garden, he found several Violet Dragon Pattern Ginseng seedlings. To others, this seedling was not of much use, but to Wang Daoyuan, it was a treasure. Very few forces were willing to plant the Purple Dragon Pattern Ginseng. After all, although the Purple Dragon Pattern Ginseng was rare, it wasn't that precious. Letting the Purple Dragon Pattern Ginseng occupy the grade 3 spiritual field for 1,000 years was not worth it. Therefore, it was almost impossible to find a Purple Rhythm pill on the market. He had already found the rarest Purple Cloud Dragon King Ginseng, so the other spirit herbs were not too rare. It would not be difficult to gather them all. In the space of the Spirit Pearl, the clone also found something good in Zhou Xian's storage bag. When Zhou Xian was traveling, he'd once explored the place of death of a Violet Palace realm cultivator and obtained the inheritance of that Violet Palace realm cultivator. He had obtained a Violet Palace disciple technique and a 3rd-tier spell. This Violet Palace realm cultivation technique was called the Falling Star Incantation, and it could be cultivated to the late Violet Palace realm. The Falling Star Incantation was a dual attribute cultivation method of fire and earth. Moreover, fire and earth were both primary and secondary. Anyone with a stronger spiritual root could cultivate it. The 3rd-tier spell was called the Meteor Fall Art. It was the same spell that Zhou Xian had used to kill the Scarlet Cloud Pattern Python. There were 2 ways to use this spell. The first way required one to accumulate spiritual energy, which was the method that Zhou Xian had used. The other way was to condense a meteor to attack the enemy. It did not have the power of consecutive attacks, but it could be used quickly. When the meteor fall art was cultivated to the peak, the power of a single meteor would be comparable to the 4th stage of the Earth Divine Lightning. However, it would be difficult for Wang Daoyuan to cultivate it to that level. After all, it was impossible for him to cultivate the Falling Star Incantation. If he didn't cultivate the Falling Star Incantation, the power of the Meteor Fall art would be greatly reduced. When he cultivated it to the peak, it would only be comparable to the 3rd stage of the Earth Divine Lightning. If he used it quickly, he would be able to condense it in half a breath. It was much faster than most spells of the same grade, but it was still far from the Earth Divine Lightning. Apart from that, he also obtained Zhou Xian's intermediate grade fiery longsword, the Parting Flame Sword. Within the space of the Spirit Pearl, the Split Soul had successfully taken control of the Split Soul. It began to pry into the old man's memories. This person was called Li Qingxuan. He was not from the Beiyuan sword sect's main family. He was originally a wandering cultivator. When he was young, he was surrounded by cultivators who wanted to steal his treasures. He was saved by the Beiyuan sword sect leader, Li Qingyuan, who happened to be passing by. Li Qingyuan treated him well and taught him the Beiyuan sword sect's cultivation techniques and spells. For many years, Li Qingxuan had been the leader of the Li family's secret forces, doing the dirty work for the Beiyuan sword sect. After all, he was not from the Li family, and the cultivation technique that he cultivated was not the Beiyuan sword manual that was passed down in the Li family. In addition, he was not very talented. When he cultivated to the 6th stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, his potential was basically exhausted. For many years, he could not improve his cultivation. Therefore, he did not pursue a higher level of cultivation and focused all his attention on the path of the sword. Although the cultivation technique that he cultivated was not passed down in the Li family, he still knew the sword manipulation technique of the Beiyuan sword sect. This was the most valuable thing to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan knew in his heart that with his personality, the path of the sword was definitely not reliable. To walk the path of the sword, one must first focus on the sword and not be influenced by external forces. One must also be fearless and have the belief that one sword can break all techniques. He did not have any of these conditions. It was impossible to be fearless. If one did not run when facing an opponent that they could not defeat, that would be the behavior of a fool. As for breaking all techniques with one sword, he did not believe in it at all. There were thousands of Daos, and none of them could be invincible or flawless. On the path of cultivation, Wang Daoyuan was particular about practicality. He would use whatever was useful. As long as it did not go against his principles, he could do anything. No matter who his opponent was or what path they took, he could defeat them through means that countered them. The cultivation technique that Li Qingshuan cultivated was not an orthodox one. It was just a common foundation establishment technique, and was not very useful. The sword manipulation technique was the Beiyuan sword technique of the Beiyuan sword sect, and was no different from what the Li family's direct descendants cultivated. This sword manipulation technique was much more advanced than the sword manipulation technique of the Wang family. With the Beiyuan sword technique, not to mention the use of sword cultivation techniques, just the power of sword kinesis flight and the speed of sword kinesis flight would be incomparable. Li Qingshuan also cultivated a few of the stronger sword manipulation techniques of the Beiyuan sword sect, such as the 10,000 sword technique and the heaven-cleaving sword, to the point where he could use them as he pleased. The shadow of the shield that he used to withstand the 7 Earth Divine Thunderbolts was called the Black Tortoise Sword Shield. It was a rare defensive technique among the sword manipulation techniques. However, Li Jianfeng's younger brother did not know the defensive technique that he used to protect himself from the aftershocks of the explosion after his clash with Wang Daoyuan. It seemed that this was a core technique of the Beiyuan sword sect, and an outsider like Li Qingshuan had no right to learn it. Finally, there was Li Qingshuan's Dharma treasure longsword. It was an upper-grade level 2 metal elemental Dharma treasure called the Golden Edge Sword. The Golden Edge Sword was a Dharma treasure produced by the Beiyuan sword sect. It was not considered strong among Dharma treasures of the same level, but it was not weak either. With so many gains, Wang Daoyuan could not help but exclaim, "It's still better to be a treasure-hunting cultivator." As the leader of the Beiyuan sword sect's secret forces, Li Qingshuan knew many of the Li family's secrets. However, Wang Daoyuan had already deduced most of the Zhao family's secrets. As for the other trivial secrets, they were not of much use to him. The Beiyuan sword sect was indeed accumulating strength in secret, grooming cannon fodder to stir up trouble. This plan was indeed started more than 30 years ago, and it was beginning to show results. However, the cultivators groomed were not very strong, and there were very few foundation establishment cultivators. The Beiyuan sword sect did have a secret channel to obtain all kinds of spiritual herbs. However, only the sword sect leader, Li Qingyuan, knew the details of this channel. Every time, someone would deliver the spiritual herbs, and the Beiyuan sword sect did not need to send people to collect them. This channel provided a lot of spiritual herbs. The Beiyuan sword sect forcefully recruited 5 level 2 alchemists, forcing them to refine pills with all their might, but it still resulted in a backlog of spiritual herbs. Wang Daoyuan's previous estimate was too conservative. The Beiyuan sword sect's source of spiritual herbs had at least 3,000 mu of level 2 spiritual fields. In addition to level 1 spiritual fields, the total amount of spiritual fields could exceed 10,000 mu. Furthermore, there was also the matter of that young Master Zhao. Young Master Zhao was the great-grandson of Emperor Lai Zhao, and could be considered Zhao Liang's younger cousin. Chapter 224. Zhao Liang's grandfather was the eldest son of the Lai Emperor, and Zhao Liang's grandfather was the 6th son of the Lai Emperor. After Zhao Liang married into the Wang family, Wang Daoyuan also asked him how the Zhao royal family was defeated by the three major sects when they were so powerful. The power left behind by the eldest son of the Lai emperor was completely gone, and no one would support Zhao Liang anymore. Instead, there would be people who wanted to kill him or use him as a cover. Zhao Liang naturally didn't want to get involved in the affairs of the Zhao royal family. He just wanted to be an ordinary member of the Wang family. Therefore, he didn't take the Zhao royal family's secret seriously. When Wang Daoyuan asked, he told him everything that happened in the past. Back then, there was a beast tide in the sky/mountain range. More than 90% of the Zhao royal family's experts were sent to the sky/mountain range to defend against the beast tide. Although the beast tide was defeated, the Zhao royal family's experts suffered great losses. More than 60% of the Golden Core cultivators and 70% of the Violet Palace cultivators were lost. More than half of the Golden Core and Violet Palace cultivators of the other affiliated families were also killed. The three great sects took this opportunity to collude with some ambitious nobles and attacked the capital of the Zhao royal family. There were too few people left behind to guard the Zhao family. The three sects, with the help of spies, successfully took over the capital of the Zhao country, destroyed the Zhao family's nest, and killed all the masters of the Zhao family who stayed behind. Even the Lai emperor died in battle, and only a few Violet Palace cultivators managed to escape. Although the Zhao royal family lost a lot of experts, the remaining members and affiliated families were still more powerful than the three great sects. As long as the Zhao royal family's experts and affiliated families were united, they could destroy the three great sects. But the problem was who would become the emperor of the Zhao royal family. The Lai emperor had many sons, and three of them had the ability to compete for the throne. They were the first prince, the sixth prince, and the ninth prince. The first prince was meticulous, well-versed in politics, and had a broad mind. He had great foresight and a good reputation. Plus, he was the eldest son, making him the best candidate for the throne. But the first prince also had two major flaws. One was that his mother didn't have a good background, and the other was that his cultivation talent wasn't good. Although the first prince's mother was the Lai emperor's empress, she was a rogue cultivator and didn't have any family's power. The first prince's cultivation talent was actually considered to be above average. For an ordinary faction, it would not be a problem for him to become the successor. However, how could the Zhao royal family be an ordinary power? Just superior talent was not enough to convince everyone. Most importantly, the first prince did not have a water spiritual root. The Zhao clan's direct descendant inheritance was a water attribute cultivation technique, and their trump card was the blooming water divine thunder. The first prince was unable to cultivate his family's lineage, and most of the people in the royal family did not support him. The sixth prince, on the other hand, happened to have an extremely high water attribute spiritual root. It was said that it was very close to the celestial spiritual root. Cultivating the Zhao clan's direct descendant inheritance, his cultivation improved very quickly, and his attainments in the blooming water divine thunder were also very high. Most of the experts of the Zhao royal family supported the sixth prince. However, the sixth prince was sinister, vicious, and short-sighted. Most of the forces outside the royal family looked down on him. The ninth prince was a low-key person. He did not reveal anything, but he was very capable and experienced in doing things. His main spiritual root was also a water spiritual root. Although his talent was not as good as the sixth prince's, he was better than the eldest prince's. Most importantly, the ninth prince's mother's family was the Heyangshe clan, the founding family of the country. They were extremely powerful. Back then, the Zhao clan's forces were divided into three major factions. The first prince received the support of most of the small and medium forces, as well as a small portion of the royal family forces. Although the Wang clan did not choose a side, they had the best relationship with the first prince. The sixth prince received the support of most of the royal family forces, as well as the support of a small number of opportunistic forces. For example, the Beiyuan sword sect's territory was not far from the Wang clans. They were suppressed by the Wang clan, so they supported the sixth prince and wanted to become an official of the emperor, using this opportunity to suppress the Wang clan. The ninth prince relied on his mother's connections to receive the support of most of the high-ranking nobles. Emperor Zhao Lai had died in battle. If the three major factions worked together, defeating the three major sects would not be a problem. However, the three major factions all wanted to push the princes they supported onto the throne, so they did not cooperate with each other. Fortunately, the three princes were not completely stupid. They did not rashly proclaim themselves as emperors, thus avoiding internal conflict. The three major factions each occupied a region. The three major sects would not be idle. They gathered their forces and dealt with the first prince's faction first. Although the first prince did not receive the support of the main family and the high-ranking nobles, he had the highest reputation and the support of many small and medium forces. His supporters gathered all their forces and were the strongest of the three major factions. Furthermore, the first prince publicly promised that after destroying the three major sects to avenge his father, he would immediately give the throne to his two younger brothers, who had contributed the most. The insightful people among the supporters of the other two princes also started to persuade the other two factions to support the first prince. More and more people in the royal family supported the first prince. If this continued, the three princes' forces might reach an agreement. At that time, the three major sects would be finished. In order to eliminate this greatest threat, the three major sects gathered their forces and attacked the first prince first. At this time, the weakness of the first prince's faction was revealed. His supporters were too scattered and he lacked top-notch experts. The sixth prince's faction was the closest, but they could only watch from the sidelines. The first prince's forces were too weak and were quickly defeated. Many experts heard the news and went to help. Even the Wang clan's ancestor went to rescue him. He killed the Golden Core elder of the Cruel Sun Palace who came to stop him. But the rescue was not in time and the first prince died in battle. After the first prince's death, some of his forces turned to the other two princes and some continued to follow the first prince's son. But even more forces were disappointed in the Zhao clan and directly surrendered to the three major sections. After this battle, the Zhao clan's forces no longer had much of an advantage over the three major sections. Without the first prince, the sixth prince and the ninth prince did not have enough prestige. No one could convince everyone and the state of Zhao lost its last chance to quell the rebellion of the three major sections. In the end, the first prince's forces were scattered and only his grandson, Zhao Liang, was left. The sixth prince was the second to be attacked. But the sixth prince was too useless and only wanted to protect himself. He had the support of Lord Waterfront and finally retreated to the waterfront state with his loyal subordinates. During the retreat, the late-stage Golden Core Grand Elder of the Cruel Sun Palace chased after him with a dozen Golden Core cultivators. The Wang clan's ancestor, Wang Qingzu, and a few Golden Core cultivators went to protect the sixth prince. With his mid-stage Golden Core cultivation, Wang Qingzu used the 10,000 Dragon Sea Turner to kill the Grand Elder of the Cruel Sun Palace. The Golden Core cultivators of the three major sects were scared out of their wits and no one dared to fight with him. That was why the sixth prince was able to escape. After the sixth prince fled to the waterfront state, the remaining forces of the Zhao clan followed the ninth prince. The ninth prince also displayed his outstanding ability and commanded the remaining forces to fight the three major sections. After the first prince's death, the Zhao clan's strength was no longer great. After the sixth prince was defeated, he took another group of experts with him. At this time, the ninth prince's forces were far inferior to the combined forces of the three major sections. Even so, the ninth prince still managed to gather a powerful force. After fighting with the three major sects for more than 20 years, he killed several Golden Core cultivators, dozens of Violet Palace Realm cultivators and hundreds of Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators and dealt a heavy blow to the three major sections. Until now, the three major sects had not been able to restore their high-end combat power to the level they had before the war. The forces that supported the ninth prince were also wiped out and even the Wang clan's ancestor died in battle. The remaining few escaped to various dangerous places and hid. The Green Willow State was one of the gathering places of the ninth prince's remaining forces. However, there was no news of the ninth prince's death. he was very likely still alive. The worst was the first prince's bloodline, Zhao Liang. The ninth prince's bloodline could not be completely wiped out. Chapter 225. Since the ninth prince's bloodline was still there, the Shi family must still be loyal to the ninth prince. Since Shi Xinghua came to Shanbei, it meant that the sixth prince and the ninth prince had reached an agreement. If the two families wanted to work together, Lord Linhai's bloodline would definitely be involved. The sixth prince's bloodline had preserved the most strength, so the sixth prince should be the leader. Lord Linhai had developed in Linhai state for nearly 10,000 years, so it was hard to say how much strength he had. In addition, the sixth prince had taken away a few Jindan stage experts from his own family. Together with the ninth prince, their strength was not necessarily inferior to the Netherworld sect. However, Wang Daoyuan did not think highly of the sixth prince's bloodline. Back then, the sixth prince was the most useless. He had the most Jindan stage experts under his command, but he was the worst at fighting, the most cowardly, and the worst in character. Now, he did not even look for a partner, but actually found a force like the Beiyuan sword sect. Sword cultivators were not good at scheming. What kind of tricks could they play if they were asked to do such a secret thing? In order to accumulate strength, the Beiyuan sword sect's performance was too abnormal. They even opened brothels. In addition, they recruited rogue cultivators and forced rogue cultivators who were good at cultivation to join the sect. This kind of behavior was only normal when the sect was facing a great enemy or a disaster. Although the Beiyuan sword sect was not very strong, they did not have a great enemy forcing them, nor were they in a very big crisis. Doing something against common sense in such a brazen manner was telling other forces that they were going to cause trouble. He could find clues in such a short time, so the local forces would not be unaware of the abnormality. The Netherworld sect did not lack smart people. As the second largest force around the Guiyan market, how could they not have their own intelligence network? The situation of the Beiyuan sword sect might have already been under the control of the Netherworld sect. The Netherworld sect did not pull in the net, probably to lure out the Zhao family and then catch them in one fell swoop. The Green Willow state was better hidden. On the surface, the foundation establishment cultivators of the Green Willow state all had their own forces. But when they joined together, they still fought with each other. The Shi family was only one of the stronger ones. Moreover, the ninth prince's bloodline, after being defeated, never showed their face again. The foundation establishment cultivators of the Green Willow state only wanted to develop their own strength, and there was nothing unusual. The outside world had always thought that Shi Zhenbang snatched the foundation establishment pill to make a name for himself so that he could increase his family's strength. Shi Zhenbang wanted to increase his family's strength and eventually control the entire Green Willow region. At most, he would just be disgusted by Qingli City Square. If he had not seen Shi Xinghua come to the Beiyuan sword sect, he would not have thought that Green Willow province was planning such a big thing. The ninth prince's bloodline knew how to be patient, and their performance in history was also very good. Wang Daoyuan favored the ninth prince's bloodline more. The sixth prince was not someone who could accomplish great things. Even if he stood out, he would be dealt with by the Netherworld sect. They would not help either side and just watch the show. Unless the sixth prince could really display his invincible might and beat up the Underworld sect and the other two sects, the Wang clan would only stand on his side. Wang Daoyuan transplanted some of the spiritual herbs he needed from the underground herb garden into the spiritual pearl space. As for some valuable spirit plants that weren't in urgent need, he would collect their seeds and keep them. He could hand them over to his family in the future. Moreover, he might be able to use it in the future if he kept it. Just like the sawtooth vine from before, there was no harm in being prepared. Li Qingxuan had come to capture him and was waiting for him to come. It was normal that he would not return for a while. The Beiyuan sword sect would not send anyone to search for him either. Therefore, this place was still safe for the time being. To be safe, he repaired all the defensive arrays in the herb garden and improved them. Not only did he restore the array's functions, but they were even stronger. After repairing the arrays, he connected the arrays to the spirit vein. Afterward, he also practiced the meteor fall technique that Zhou Xian had left behind. It took him a little more than a day to reach the beginner level. Now, when he used the meteor fall technique, he needed 3 to 4 breaths of time to shoot out a meteorite. Its power was far inferior to the Earth Divine Lightning. However, it did not matter. It was mainly used to scare people. If he really met someone difficult to deal with, he could either run or use the Earth Divine Lightning. Next, he also practiced the Gui Yuan sword sex sword manipulation technique, the Gui Yuan sword technique, and the Black Tortoise sword shield. He practiced more spells so that when he faced an enemy, he could defeat them without using his trump cards. If he provoked an expert, he could also cause some trouble for the Gui Yuan sword sect. It had to be said that the true power of a sword cultivator's spells could only be unleashed when combined with the unique sword manipulation technique. He used 2 days to reach the beginner level of the Gui Yuan sword technique. The power of the 10,000 sword technique and heaven-cleaving sword was more than twice as strong as before. They were no weaker than Li Jianfeng's brother. Wang Daoyuan cultivated in the underground herb garden for a while before leaving. After he exited the cave, he closed the giant rock in front of the cave. Then, he used the earth wall technique to stick the stone door and the mountain together. He even sealed the mechanism to open the door. Next, he would go to the Xianing River to collect pure yin qi. However, he could not leave so easily. Otherwise, if Li Qingchuan did not return for a long time, the Gui Yuan sword sect would thoroughly search this area. The underground herb garden might also be discovered. It was better to put on a show and divert the Gui Yuan sword sect's attention elsewhere. He released his clone, Li Qingchuan, from the space. He dressed as an independent cultivator and wore a veil and a bamboo hat. The two of them hid their figures and traveled 200 miles to the west. Then, they flew on their swords. Wang Daoyuan flew in front on his sword and pretended to be in a hurry to escape. Li Qingchuan's doppelganger, on the other hand, was like a cat toying with a mouse, following behind at a leisurely pace while shouting, "Fellow Daoist Wang, you won't be able to escape. Just come back with me. This old man guarantees that he won't mistreat you." Wang Daoyuan scolded angrily, "Bullsh *T, you want me to be your slave? I won't fall for it." Li Qingchuan was faster on his sword and could quickly catch up with him. Every time Li Qingchuan caught up, he would turn around and throw a few talismans to repel Li Qingchuan. After repeating this dozens of times, the two of them flew more than 3,000 miles. Wang Daoyuan shouted along the way. The Gui Yuan sword sect captured alchemists and talisman masters and imprisoned them to help them refine pills. All alchemists and talisman masters are traveling together. If you see anyone from the Gui Yuan sword sect, run away immediately. When they encountered cultivators passing by, Li Qingchuan even threatened them. The Gui Yuan sword sect is handling matters. If you're afraid of death, get out of the way. After that, he also used the myriad sword art or the sky-cleaving sword to attack Wang Daoyuan. In this way, the scandal of the Gui Yuan sword sect would quickly spread throughout the north of the mountain. It would be difficult to trick alchemists again. The other forces that were not on good terms with the Gui Yuan sword sect would not let go of this opportunity. They would definitely use this opportunity to annoy the Gui Yuan sword sect. This would also create some trouble for the Gui Yuan sword sect so that they would not have the energy to chase after him. Along the way, they fought non-stop and cursed. Soon, the two of them landed in a dense forest. They were still fighting in the dense forest. The demonic beasts that occupied this area were unhappy. It was fine if they were causing trouble in the sky, but they even dared to fight in their territory. They really did not take them seriously. The demonic beasts also joined in the fight. The battle changed from a one-on-one to a three-sided battle. Li Qingchuan's clone even scolded, "Huang Wanli, don't fail to appreciate my kindness. If you don't surrender, I'll have to kill you." Wang Daoyuan did not reply. He used the swift art and kept running. Li Qingxuan used the myriad sword art and dozens of long sword phantoms chased after him. Wang Daoyuan led the long sword phantoms to another demonic beast's territory and successfully angered another demonic beast. After an hour, more than 10 demonic beasts in the area were angered. Wang Daoyuan found a cave and went in. There was a brown bear in the cave. Li Qingxuan's clone followed behind and killed the brown bear with one sword strike. After that, Wang Daoyuan put away his clone and used the earth escape technique to leave the cave. After so long, he should be able to divert the attention of the Gui Yuan sword sect to this forest. In order to prevent being tracked, he did not immediately return to the surface after leaving the cave. Instead, he continued to travel underground for hundreds of miles. Until he found an underground river, he used the cloud escape technique and followed the river's flow. Using the water to travel, it was impossible to track him. Finally, he came to a small lake in the mountains. He released the soul-chasing bees to check the surroundings and compared it with the map to confirm the location. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.